Chapter 1. Starting 500 years late. In the Kyushu continent, on top of the piled Thunder Mountain. The sky was covered in dark clouds, with flashes of lightning and rolls of thunder. Bronze-colored heavenly lightning flickered in the clouds, like dragons and snakes crawling behind the black clouds, as divine as ghosts. Their mighty power piled up like mountains, instilling fear and dread in spectators. Rumble. The sound of thunder was like drums beating beside one's ear, almost deafening. Overwhelming heavenly lightning descended, turning into plasmid sparks, pouring onto the silhouette of a person standing against the storm atop the piled Thunder Mountain. Despite the onslaught of the thunder, the figure remained unyielding and steadfast. After the heavenly tribulation, Zhongli looked up at the sky, full of anticipation. However, only a clear sky remained after the storm of dark clouds had dissipated. There was no golden immortal ascension ladder that he had been yearning for. Sadly, it is indeed impossible to ascend to immortality. Zhongli muttered to himself in a tone filled with disappointment. This was the 15th time he had tried to cross the immortal tribulation. Transcending tribulation to ascend to immortality was not a vague and nebulous legend, but a fact with explicit evidence. In the current Kyushu continent there still existed immortal doctrine, immortal artifacts, immortal laws and those old antiques who have witnessed the immortal ascension ladder. According to those old antiques, there were often great cultivators in the realm of the Kyushu continent thousands of years ago, who, once they had overcome the heavenly tribulation, the immortal realm would descend an immortal ascension ladder to welcome them. However, for unknown reasons, the immortal realm no longer lowered the immortal ascension ladder, cutting off the path to ascension, leaving countless cultivators into size, passing away in regret. Since 500 years ago when Zhongli crossed into the Kyushu continent, he had no golden finger cheat. Relying on his diligence, wisdom, and luck, he rose from insignificance, overcame various difficulties and obstacles, and finally cultivated to the highest realm in Kyushu continent, the Mahayana realm, and become the reigning human emperor, undeniably the top individual in the Kyushu continent. Transcending into the cultivation world without being able to ascend is indeed a regret. Zhongli also wondered, if he had a golden finger, like a system or an omnipresent old grandpa, would the path be less winding? He sighed, what was the point of thinking about these things now? Having a golden finger or not, hadn't he reached his current position? And looking back at those detours he took along the way, aren't those part of the enjoyment? Host's information detected, counterattack system activated. Name, Zhongli, age, 518. Status, human emperor. Cultivation, Mahayana realm. A mechanical voice rose by Zhongli's ear. Zhongli subconsciously opened his divine sense, on guard, but as he clearly heard this voice, he was stumped, and a mixture of excitement and helplessness erupted in his heart. With a chuckle, he complained. Isn't this system a bit too late? Despite complaining, the system still needed to be opened. This system is a counterattack system, helping the host knock down all who look down upon the host. Please accept the novice gift pack, dear host. Upon hearing the word counterattack, Zhongli felt a deep sense of unease, but he still suppressed his discomfort and said, accept. As soon as the words fell, a pile of items miraculously appeared before Zhongli. He sat cross-legged to check these items. As soon as he opened the small pill bottle, he could smell a refreshing fragrance, which made his mood rise, a scent that only the finest elixirs had. 20 top-grade qi-gathering pills, which had extraordinary effects in the qi cultivation stage. A single top-grade foundation establishment pill that can assist a qi cultivating stage cultivator to achieve the perfect foundation establishment. 10 low-level talismans, including 2 strength talismans, 2 speed talismans, 2 stealth talismans, and 4 tranquility talismans. 150 low-level spirit stones. A damaged magic technique manual titled 4-2 pacifying 1,000 pounds, with a comforting note from the system on the side. 4-2 pacifying 1,000 pounds is a secret art of the Tao sect. Mastering the damaged copy can make one invincible in the qi cultivation stage. If you want a full copy you can use 10,000 source points. Current source points, 0. Zhongli looked at these items in silence. Isn't this newbie gift pack a little too newbie? Zhongli inspected these items carefully. Among them the most valuable item was probably the rough-looking manual. Not just rough-looking, it was even incomplete. Furthermore, 4-2 pacifying 1,000 pounds. Zhongli pondered for a moment, then drew a brand new book from his storage ring, a book with the same title. This was a book that the sect master of the Tao sect personally wrote as a gift to Zhongli, including the experiences and annotations of the predecessors of the Tao sect. Powerful magic techniques usually have a realm threshold. For instance, the Ding-quelling central plains of thick soil sect, which could only be motivated with golden core stage mana, and the butterfly transformation yin and yang of the heart demon sect, which also required golden core stage mana to urge. The advantage of 4-2 pacifying 1,000 pounds was no spiritual energy restrictions. It emphasizes moving with the heart, using weakness to overcome strength, which was quite suitable for fighting across ranks, a rare no-threshold magic technique. After careful comparison of the two books and confirming that the contents were the same, Zhang Li couldn't help but feel puzzled. These are all good stuff, but why are they all for the Qi cultivation stage? System, what is my cultivation level? A mechanical voice rose. Mahayana Realm, did you give the wrong novice gift pack? It's not a starter pack for Qi cultivation stage, it should be a starter pack for the Mahayana Realm, right? It has been verified, there is no error. What is my cultivation level? Mahayana Realm, what level of person is suitable for the novice gift pack you gave? Qi cultivation stage, did you give it to the wrong person? It has been verified, there is no error. My level. Mahayana Realm, no error. Alright, Zhang Li wordlessly responded. Even to answer first, he didn't know whether to say the system was rigid or intelligent. Newbie mission released, this mission cannot be refused or avoided. Failure penalty, unable to open the remaining functions of the system. The system's features include store, spiritual energy infusion, heart demon evasion, spatial displacement. Newbie mission. Zhang Yixing, relying on his identity as the son of the clan leader, has repeatedly bullied you. Please defeat Zhang Yixing. Zhang Li was full of question marks. Zhang Yixing, such a familiar name, who is it? Recalling back to the beginning of his transmigration, Zhang Li finally remembered who Zhang Yixing was. Zhang Li's father was the previous clan leader. After his father's death, he was left with his sickly mother. After his mother passed away due to a severe illness, Zhang Li became an orphan. After the death of his parents, Zhang Yixing, who was the son of the current clan leader, bullied people everywhere. Among all his victims, he enjoyed bullying Zhang Li the most. This gave him a strange feeling of fulfillment. And since Zhang Yixing was the most talented in the clan, no one dared to speak up for Zhang Li, who was always meek. Zhang Li, after being bullied, did nothing but curse his fate. Eventually, he died due to a fit of extreme rage. It was during that time that Zhang Li transmigrated. After transmigrating, Zhang Li judged that staying in this family would do more harm than good, so he immediately ran away from home. That was 500 years ago. Viewing him now, Zhang Yixing's so-called title as the most talented in the clan didn't mean much. At best, he could only reach the foundation establishment stage in his lifetime, and with luck go beyond to the later stages. His chance of reaching the golden core stage was almost zero. The lifespan of a cultivator at the foundation establishment stage is no different from a mortal, which is 140 years. Those at the golden core stage have varied lifespans, ranging between 200 to 300 years. No matter whether Zhang Yixing reached the foundation establishment stage or the golden core stage, he is now certainly dead. Also crucial was that this novice mission seems unlikely for him to complete in his current state. System, which era is it now? Year 4300 in the flame calendar. It's year 4800 in the flame calendar now. Zhang Li finally understood where his unease and feeling of discord came from. This damn system had been activated 500 years later than it should have. Please use the time recognized by the system as a reference. Zhang Li was shaking with anger. I request to change the mission. Mission cannot be changed. Zhang Yixing is dead. Please use the time recognized by the system as a reference. Now I'm in the Mahayana realm. Is it really appropriate for me to fight Zhang Yixing, who might be in either the Qi cultivation stage or the foundation establishment stage? You call this a counterattack? Please complete the novice mission. Restart the system. Please complete the novice mission. Uninstall the system. Please complete the novice mission. Zhang Li almost spat out a mouthful of old blood. Upon seeing the word counterattack, he should have guessed. This damn counterattack system, as the current human emperor and the strongest in the 9 provinces, who is he supposed to counterattack against? What kind of broken system is this? I have no use for you. Zhang Li resolved to completely ignore the system. The system started 500 years late and chose a dead man as the target to complete the mission. How is one supposed to defeat a dead person? Through a psychological victory. Below piled Thunder Mountain, numerous powerful cultivators expectantly waited for the human emperor's tribulation. These people were either the master of a great sect, rulers of an empire, or ancient beings who had lived for thousands of years. The accomplishments of these sect masters were astonishing. They would have already calmly locked themselves away for cultivation to transcend the tribulations and become immortals long ago if they didn't have to wait for the immortal realm to appear. There were even a few who had transcended to become immortals themselves, however, they certainly couldn't be compared to the amount of tribulations Zhongli had been through. The reason they were here was not to see if Zhongli could cross the tribulation, but to observe if there was a chance to ascend after the tribulation. This tribulation was destined to disappoint them too, as there was no celestial ladder leading to becoming an immortal after the tribulation, as was described in the legends. The thought of becoming immortal seemed so out of their reach, which unavoidably appeared in the heads of the sect masters. Although they all anticipated it, it still cast a gloomy shadow over everyone's hearts. Zhongli flew down from the peak of the mountain, and even those who weren't good at interpreting others' emotions could see the despair in his heart. If it were just about not ascending after a single tribulation, Zhongli wouldn't have been too disappointed. However, the sudden new system made him believe there was some sort of cheat that could help him ascend, which turned out to be a useless feature. The sect masters easily detected Zhongli's state of mind, though they still feigned an excited expression, congratulating Zhongli. Congratulations, human Emperor Zhong, on passing another tribulation. Heavens above, it's a frightful sight for me just watching from the sidelines, yet you, human Emperor Zhong, crossed it safely. Your cultivation must have improved once again. It was pure luck, pure luck. If human Emperor Zhong can ascend, he will also be a dominant figure in the immortal realm. The road to ascension is long and strenuous, and we need to work hard together. Human Emperor Zhong, you must come to my sect and share your cultivation experiences with my unworthy disciples, give me some face. How can Sect Master Zhong say that? I'm eternally grateful for your guidance. In due time, I will share my experiences with Sect Master Zhong and our younger generation. What a pity that the immortal realm is too far away from us, its location is uncertain and its borders are too thick. Otherwise, with human Emperor Yang's cultivation, he can break open the barrier by force. Everyone knows that your lineage from Mount Sumeru excels at the spatial arts. If anyone can locate the immortal realm, it's you. Zhongli was very polite to these sect masters, thanking each one of them. He also promised that he would visit each sect and share his experiences with them, which made the sect masters very pleased. After bidding farewell to the sect masters, Zhongli called out the system again. The words of the old Buddha from Mount Sumeru just now gave him an idea. System, can you send me to the immortal realm? The system will open spatial transmission capabilities in the future which could take the host to the immortal realm. Can you send me there now? Zhongli was overjoyed. The system still had some use, just as expected from a cheat. Please first complete the novice mission. Zhongli patiently explained to the system. You can send me to the immortal realm first. Through the immortal realm, I can get to the underworld, find Zhang Yixing there, defeat him, and thus complete the mission. Please complete the novice mission first. Can you be flexible? Can I pay you back later? You can't just ask me to fight a dead man. Please complete the novice mission first. What a crap system. Zhongli felt like this wasn't a cheat at all, but an insult from the heavens. While cursing at the system's uselessness, he was thinking about how to complete the system mission. For instance, he could find someone named Zhang Yixing and beat him up, or find a person and force him to name himself Zhang Yixing then beat him up or even dance on Zhang Yixing's grave. Of course, these are all alternative plans. His primary plan was obviously to go back to his hometown to see if Zhang Yixing was still alive. Maybe he obtained a lifespan extension pill, well not just one, but more than 10 to barely make it to this day, or maybe he received guidance from a great master and broke through to the nascent soul stage. With the lifespan of a nascent soul stage cultivator being around 500 years, he could just about make it to the present. In short, aptitude is not the only determining factor. For example, himself, Zhong Li, was a good example. If it wasn't for his hard work in cultivation, even with a tiny bit of help from his heavenly spiritual roots and limitless Taoist body, he still wouldn't be able to cultivate to the Mahayana realm. Chapter 2. Left home young, came back an adult, who in the world wouldn't recognize you? The imperial palace is universally respected across the 9 provinces, with an extraordinary status. One of its responsibilities is to mediate between different forces to prevent devastating battles among cultivation powers that can lead to countless casualties. At the peak of cultivation, one thought can reverse mountains and overturn seas. The devastating effects on the 9 provinces if 2 peak cultivators clash can easily be imagined. History has examples of such incidents. When the previous human emperor passed away and the new human emperor hadn't emerged, a conflict rose between the ancient sects and the imperial family. It escalated into an irreconcilable feud where both sides fought mercilessly. Half of the 9 provinces were involved, and anyone who dared to mediate was destroyed by the two forces together. The situation wasn't resolved until the new human emperor, Emperor Zhongli, took the throne. Through the collective will of all beings, he executed the leaders of the ancient sects and the monarch of the imperial family, ending the calamity that swept through the 9 provinces. The dynasty and sects of the 9 provinces coexist in competition and mutual growth. This policy was drafted by the first-generation emperor, and the result of repeated deliberation by successive emperors. The cultivator has the desire for immortality and the spirit of courage and combativeness. Relentless suppression is not a long-term strategy. To give cultivators a way to compete, the imperial palace doesn't suppress other powers, but rather, offers all sorts of help and encourages competition among them. Therefore, the abundance of talented people in the 9 provinces has never ceased. It is precisely for this reason that there are so many countries within the 9 provinces continent. Thousands of small countries and the 9 major dynasties constitute the basic structure of the continent. A major dynasty has a long-lasting destiny and does not decay for thousands of years. Zhongli's hometown is situated within the Great Zhou dynasty. It's just an inconspicuous small city of the Great Zhou dynasty family, located on the plains. There are no scenic mountains and waters, nor is there any mineral vein or spiritual treasure. If it were not Zhongli's hometown, perhaps even the Great Zhou dynasty family themselves wouldn't know of the existence of such a small city. In Zhongli's memory, the strongest in the small county town was just at the foundation establishment stage. And for Zhang Yixing, who once had the opportunity to break through to the golden core stage, could naturally be regarded as an extraordinary genius. Zhongli stood at the city gate, staring blankly at Qingcheng City, which bore no resemblance to his memories. The once short and mossy Qingcheng City had disappeared. In its place was a towering city wall built of refined steel and stone, and a city gate large enough for any sized beast mounts to enter freely. Young rangers traveled through the rivers and lakes, parents brought their children to absorb the emperor's spiritual energy, cultivators hoped for the emperor's blessing to break through restrictions. All of these events transformed the inconspicuous Qingcheng into a low-key yet meaningful city since the moment Zhongli became an emperor. Even the guard at the city gate was a gold core period cultivator. Because of this, the city gate was bustling with activities as people came and went. Upon entering Qingcheng City, the first thing that met the eye was a huge bronze statue. The man in the statue was imposing, holding a long spear, staring in all directions as if a celestial being was inspecting the mortal world. It was Emperor Zhongli himself. Zhongli originally thought that he would not be recognized upon returning here. He only wore a straw hat. Under the shadow of the hat, his real face looked identical to the bronze statue. Who would have known that the reality was? Who in the world does not know your grace? There were quite a few people worshipping around the bronze statue. Zhongli could even feel the power of faith emanating from the statue. He quickly used a spell to change his face. "Excuse me, where is the Zhang family located?" Zhongli asked a person casually. The man appeared to be quite older and walked slowly. Of course, Zhongli was actually older in terms of actual age. "Are you from out of town, young man?" Everyone in Qingcheng City knows that the Zhang family is located in the central city, next to the city lord's residence, said the old man with a smile. He pointed his hand in a certain direction. "Over there." The old man's accent was heavy. If one is not a local, they might find it difficult to understand. But as a native of Qingcheng City, Zhongli had no trouble understanding. "I've heard that the Zhang family used to be simply a small clan located on the outskirts of Qingcheng. But after Emperor Zhang came to power, more and more cultivators began to come here in search of the reasons for Emperor Yang's strength. The Zhang family seized the opportunity to become the largest family in Qingcheng. Although the Zhang family hasn't relocated, as Qingcheng expands, the location of the Zhang family has gradually become the center of the city." Glancing around and seeing there were too many people, the old man pulled Zhongli into a corner and spoke in a low voice. "There are rumors that the Zhang family controls the whole of Qingcheng, even who becomes the city lord. Given that the Great Zhou dynasty governs the nation with laws, how can such a situation arise?" Zhongli shook his head, denying the old man's statement. The royal family of Great Zhou specializes in the way of time. They can trace back time and hence, uncover the truth behind anything. He had seen both the previous and current monarchs of Great Zhou. They all acted strictly according to the law without ever overstepping the boundaries. As such, the people below should also abide by the law. Zhongli had traveled through Great Zhou, seen the local customs, and had disputes with the local powers. The government's intervention was always based on the facts and never biased because of local powers. Out of the 9 major dynasties, only the Great Zhou dynasty is distinct, binding state affairs and laws, and governing the nation according to laws. If the monarch knew of someone breaking the law and didn't punish them, the fate of the nation would be affected. In severe cases, the fate of the nation might even crush the monarch. The other dynasties all advocate force. The law can be trampled upon, whether overtly or covertly. That the Zhang family could influence the city lord was believable, however, the claim that they could install anyone as they wished was far-fetched. Seeing that the old man seemed to know something, Zhang Li continued to ask. Is the old ancestor of the Zhang family, Zhang Yixing, still alive? What's his cultivation level? I don't know about that, the old man shook his head. But if you want to visit the Zhang family, it's best to wait a few more days. It's the time of their ancestor worship ceremony. They close their doors for 9 days, not seeing outsiders. Today is the 7th day. Who would have thought that I'd run into the once-in-a-decade ancestral worship ceremony? I'm not sure whether this counts as good luck or bad, Zhang Li laughed. The Zhang family did have the tradition of ancestral worship, once every 10 years. The original owner of this body died at the age of 18 and had only experienced one ancestral worship ceremony. The old man gave Zhang Li a strange look and said slowly. According to the older generation, the Zhang family initially had the ceremony once every 10 years. Since Emperor Zhang took the throne 300 years ago, the frequency of the ceremony increased from once every 10 years to once every 5 years, and now it's once every year. The old man respectfully asked. Your cultivation level is? If the man has been alive for 300 years, his cultivation level should at least be at the nascent soul stage. Zhang Li gave a faint smile, ignoring the old man's question, and thanked him before heading towards the Zhang mansion. The Zhang family had tightly closed their doors and activated formations to be in accordance with the signs of their ancestral worship ceremony. Despite the protection from formations and several Gold Core period cultivators standing guard, it would still be easy for Zhang Li to enter if he wanted to. With the status of Emperor Zhang, he would undoubtedly be warmly received by the Zhang family. But Zhang Li didn't want to be treated like this. He had no good feelings about the Zhang family. For the 500 years since he left the Zhang family, he hadn't returned even once. Even so, the Zhang family shamelessly flaunted his name to curry favor in Qingcheng City, completely forgetting how they'd neglected and bullied the original owner of his body. Now, if he revealed himself, the Zhang family would probably be overjoyed and take this opportunity to promote themselves even more. Zhang Li casually cast a spell to conceal his identity and strode confidently into the Zhang family home. Chapter 3, Lost Child. The grand hall and corridors of the Zhang family were eerily empty, with only the occasional servant sweeping. The practice field, usually bustling with fierce competition, was deserted, but the degree of wear and tear suggested countless battles had taken place here. Zhang Li wandered through the Zhang residence like a spectral presence. He followed the paths etched in his memory, but 500 years had passed, and the present-day Zhang residence was vastly different from the one he remembered. The closest semblance to his memory was the small room where he had lived at the start of his journey, with an 8/10 resemblance. He guessed that after his departure, someone might have moved in, and once he became the human emperor, the Zhang family must have tidied up the room, striving to restore its original appearance. Zhang Li shook his head in a bit of regret and made his way to the ancestral hall. During the ancestral rites of the Zhang family, the eldest members knelt in the ancestral hall to pray for ancestral blessings, while the others stayed in their rooms, fasting for 9 days, not uttering a word, to show their devotion. In the ancestral hall, an old man with a weathered face covered in wrinkles, practically obscuring his eyes, knelt in reverence. Zhang Li approached him and cast a minor spell. He made out the man's youthful features beneath the ravages of time. The man bore a striking resemblance to Zhang Yixing. He was either Yixing's son or grandson, or perhaps even further removed from Yixing. And Zhang Yixing's memorial plaque was conspicuously placed at the very bottom of all the memorial tablets. Zhang Li exhaled softly and turned to leave the Zhang residence. Zhang Yixing was, after all, long gone. Although he'd been expecting this, he still felt a sense of desolation. As Zhang Li stepped out of the Zhang residence, his somber reflections were snapped by a shrill voice. "Sir, it's been 10 days. Why hasn't there been anyone sent to find our child? We demand an audience with the city lord." Directly across from the Zhang residence was the city lord's mansion. Several couples were pleading desperately with the mansion guards for an audience with the city lord, but the guards remained unmoved, as if they hadn't heard their pleas at all. "Without the city lord's permission, no one is allowed to see him." Please leave immediately. Another guard, seemingly more compassionate, began to explain patiently. Folks, we're understaffed and spread thin here at the mansion. All you've said is that your child was stolen, that you traced the trail to Chingcheng and then lost it. There are so many people coming and going in Chingcheng every day, for all we know, the kidnappers might have just been passing through. Even if we wanted to locate your child, we wouldn't know where to start. Children have been disappearing from several surrounding cities, and all the traces end in Chingcheng. Our child must be here. Another man responded angrily. He had tied a charm with a tracking spell on his child's wrist. After his child disappeared, he traced the spell until reaching Chingcheng, where the trace vanished. And he wasn't alone, he encountered several other parents in Chingcheng who had experienced the same circumstances. Some had lost their children right here. He would never believe that there was no issue in Chingcheng. My child disappeared right here in Chingcheng, how could the kidnappers just be passing through? Another expressionless guard responded, please understand our constraints. If you can provide proof that the kidnappers are in Chingcheng, we'll certainly use our resources to find them. Is that acceptable? What a load of nonsense. We demand an audience with the city lord. Our children go missing here, yet our officials do nothing. Is this what goes on in the homeland of the human emperor? My child got lost right here in Chingcheng, and I need proof. What a farce. The heated exchange between the guards and the distraught parents escalated, eventually catching the attention of the Zhang family's law enforcement officers. How disgraceful! On the day of the Zhang family's ancestral rites, how dare you make such a racket? One of the law officers stepped out of the Zhang residence, sternly reprimanding the crowd. As guards of the city lord's mansion, you allow these rabble-rousers to make a scene on your doorstep, aren't you worried about incurring the city lord's wrath? Upon hearing this, the guards immediately tried to disperse the crowd. Watching the scene, Zhang Li could not bear it anymore. He deactivated the spell cloaking his presence and let out a cold laugh from the side. What a grandiose show of power by the Zhang family, extending all the way to the city lord's mansion. If you all are so fond of meddling in affairs that don't concern you, why not take up the responsibility of cleaning the entrance of the city lord's mansion as well? Upending by these words, the law enforcement officer shouted angrily. How dare you disrespect the Zhang family? You've got quite the nerve. The parents of the missing children and the guards from the city lord's mansion were both left stunned. Given that the current human emperor was from the Zhang family, not a single soul in Chingcheng, let alone the entire Great Zhou dynasty, would dare disrespect the Zhang family like this. They wrote him off as a rash youngster. Suddenly, a middle-aged man appeared from the crowd, quickly grabbing Zhang Li's arm. With one hand he tried to placate the Zhang family law enforcement officer, and with the other silence Zhang Li. Young man, are you tired of living? Stirring up trouble with the Zhang family as soon as you step into the world. Let's go, this matter involves the human emperor Zhang, best not to blunder into such murky waters. The middle-aged man rapidly pulled Zhang Li away, quickly disappearing from sight. Given the man's strength, there was no way he could have physically moved Zhang Li. However, Zhang Li felt this person knew something more, and hence, allowed him to lead him away. Especially considering his mention of the matter involving human emperor Zhang. Whose brat are you? Didn't anyone tell you before leaving home not to provoke great families? Hiding in an alley, the middle-aged man scolded Zhang Li. Seeing his young naive face and impulsive actions, coupled with his quality clothes, he assumed Zhang Li was some wealthy family's child who'd run off to gain life experience. If this was any other dynasty, of course, I wouldn't dare provoke an unreasonable aristocratic family. But we're in Great Zhou, where law and order prevails, even the great families wouldn't dare to ignore the law. Hearing so, the middle-aged man was even more convinced of his initial assumption, that Zhang Li belonged to some highly prominent sector family. Otherwise, he wouldn't have such a broad view, comparing different dynasties right off the bat. Given the vast territory of the Great Zhou dynasty, even a nascent soul stage cultivator might not venture out of its borders in an entire lifetime, let alone compare the Great Zhou with other dynasties. Law and order, huh? You can claim that anywhere in Great Zhou except for the Zhang family. The middle-aged man paused, then continued. The Zhang family has the backing of the human emperor Zhang, who in Great Zhou would dare punish them. Everyone says the human emperor is virtuous and impartial, but who can guarantee he holds no bias for his own family? Zhang Li frowned at this. Based on my understanding, the human emperor Zhang left the Zhang family 500 years ago and hasn't returned since. Isn't that proof that he has distanced himself from his family? The middle-aged man scoffed. That's all just propaganda set up by the human emperor to cultivate his image of impartiality. Blood is thicker than water. Can you truly believe he hasn't been visiting his family secretly? Don't be so naive to believe everything you hear. The world isn't as sunny as you think. The middle-aged man tried to project an air of understanding the dark undercurrents of the world. Zhang Li thought to himself, when did I ever return here, and how come I don't know about it? Do you have evidence to back up your claims? Zhang Li hinted skepticism in his question, but the middle-aged man, basking in his seeming enlightenment, didn't catch the frosty edge to Zhang Li's question. Of course, there is. The middle-aged man asserted confidently. I once overheard a conversation between the city lord of Qingcheng and the head of the Zhang family. In between the lines, it was suggested that the human emperor often visited his family in secret. Chapter 4. The human emperor Zhang might be practicing the demonic path. Zhang Li understood what was going on. The Zhang family intended to establish a close association with him without directly expressing it, insinuating it to others instead. You said earlier that the emperor had something to do with the child's disappearance. What is that about? The middle-aged man lost his smile, became serious, and didn't want to discuss more with Zhang Li. He even exerted the pressure of the golden core stage, hoping to have Zhang Li back down. In his opinion, Zhang Li was just a little lad at the qi cultivation stage. As a senior expert at the golden core stage, it was essential to make this little guy realize the complexity of the issue and not to get involved in this dangerous affair. Do not talk about this, it is very dangerous for you. To his surprise, Zhang Li controlled his power at the peak of the nascent soul stage, exerting the same pressure. I'm keen to see what danger could there be. Nascent soul stage. This affair was clearly related to Zhang Li, and the middle-aged man had misunderstood him. If Zhang Li revealed his true identity, the man would be even more unwilling to tell the truth. So Zhang Li decided to disguise himself as a nascent soul stage cultivator, who wasn't too strong, yet formidable enough to intimidate the middle-aged man. The middle-aged man hurriedly saluted. It turns out that you are a senior cultivator of the nascent soul stage. Yuan Wuxing was oblivious. Cold sweat trickled down Yuan Wuxing's face. Who would have thought that a hot-headed youth he tried to dissuade on the street was actually a nascent soul stage cultivator? Although the youth looked young, he might be a centuries-old monster. Despite his previous behavior not being disrespectful, he feared the repercussions if this senior had a narrow mind. In Yuan Wuxing's eyes, the nascent soul stage was already an incredibly powerful stage, and there were only a few people in Qingcheng who had attained it. Even the city lord of Qingcheng was only in the early stage of the nascent soul stage. Enough, I have no intention of blaming you. Can you now tell me about the missing child incident? Zhang Li retracted his pressure and asked indifferently. After much struggle, Yuan Wuxing finally plucked up the courage to ask. Senior, can you swear that you will not let this information out? On the path to immortality, abiding by the heavenly Tao is considered paramount. Thus, making a vow is not a small matter. Most cultivators believe that if they break their vows, the penalties mentioned during the swearing would befall them. Without hesitation, Zhang Li raised 2 fingers, saying solemnly, I vow to the heavens that whatever Yuan Wuxing tells me afterwards will not be known to anyone else. If I break the vow, may I be punished by the Transcendence Tribulation. Yuan Wuxing was impelled to respect. This was a severe punishment. If one broke the vow, they would face the Transcendence Tribulation, which was undoubtedly a death sentence for a nascent soul stage cultivator. Of course, he didn't know that Zhang Li wouldn't mind going through the Transcendence Tribulation a few more times. Senior, please come to my humble dwelling. Yuan Wuxing invited Zhang Li to his home and skillfully set up several formations. After some deliberation, he crushed a precious gem and set up another formation, which even a nascent soul stage cultivator couldn't detect. Yuan Wuxing brewed a pot of his treasured tea, pouring a cup for Zhang Li first, then one for himself. The story begins 10 years ago. 10 years ago, I was already at the peak of the golden core stage, just one step away from advancing to the nascent soul stage. But I had been stuck on this last step for 20 years without any breakthrough, so I decided to come to Qingcheng to search for inspiration. When I arrived in Qingcheng, I heard that someone had lost their child. As I like to help, I attempted to assist them, but upon investigation, I discovered that the case was not as simple as it appeared. It was terrifying. Not only recently, but for over 200 years, children of less than 1 year of age had frequently disappeared in Qingcheng and the nearby cities. Moreover, I found that the disappearance coincided with the Zhang family's ancestral ceremonies. The more frequently the Zhang family held the ceremonies, the more frequent were the child disappearances. Thus, I investigated the Zhang family and found that they had indeed been stealing children. I eavesdropped on a conversation between the family master of the Zhang family and the city lord. The Zhang family and the past city lords of Qingcheng had conspired to suppress the child disappearance cases. Initially, officials from Qingcheng made a show of looking for the missing children. But for the past 2 years, they haven't even bothered with that and claimed they were short of manpower. Bunch of scoundrels. Yuan Wuxing said, veins throbbing on his forehead. He crushed the teacup with his grip. Once I start exposing these accounts, the Zhang family would be supported by the human emperor, and I would be the one who ends up in trouble, not them. The only way out is to get solid proof and make it public. Then even if the human emperor directly intervened, he couldn't hush the entire public. Zhang Li was silent for a moment before he asked. What is the Zhang family using these infants for? This, Yuan Wuxing hesitated. I don't know, maybe they're using them to make some magic artifacts. Zhang Li fixed his eyes on Yuan Wuxing, his tone stern. You're lying, what are you afraid of? Yuan Wuxing could feel his scalp prickle under the gaze. Senior, this matter really can't be said, whoever talks about it will die. Zhang Li took out a jade token from his storage ring. The word, Dao Sect, was written on the front, while the back had a perpetually rotating Tai Chi pattern. The entire jade token seemed as though not carved by human hands, but rather a natural formation. How about now? Yuan Wuxing stared wide-eyed at the token in disbelief, his lips trembling with fear and excitement. Is this a Dao Sect token? Are you a wanderer from the Dao Sect? The Dao Sect token, anyone who saw this token was to treat it as the Dao Sect master in person. Those who possessed a Dao Sect token were either old monsters at the Transcendence Tribulation stage or wanderers of Dao Sect, and there were reportedly no more than 5 in existence. Apparently, this nascent soul stage senior before him belonged to the latter group. This man was likely not the centuries-old monster Yuan Wuxing thought he was, but rather a cultivation genius who had reached the nascent soul stage in his 20s. Zhang Li nodded. I am the wanderer of the Dao Sect in this generation, Zhang Li. Zhang Li temporarily made up a name and identity for himself. Given his relationship with the Dao Sect master, the other party wouldn't blame him. So you are a Dao Sect wanderer. I can't believe I made you swear, this is. Yuan Wuxing was babbling ecstatically. A Dao Sect wanderer would inevitably become the next Dao Sect master, a future Transcendence Tribulation stage cultivator. As one of the oldest sects, Dao Sect produced many immortals even more profound than the Imperial Palace, one of the rare powers that did not fear the Imperial Palace. Of course, this was all on the assumption that they excluded Zhang Li, the strongest human emperor in history. With the involvement of a Dao Sect wanderer, the odds of overthrowing the Zhang family increased significantly. Yuan Wuxing was overjoyed. He recited calming mantras several times before he managed to control his excitement. The reason I was afraid to say it earlier was because I feared dragging Senior Zhang into it, as the human emperor might make a move against us. But since Senior Zhang is a Dao Sect wanderer, I presume he isn't afraid of the human emperor. The human emperor might be practicing demonic cultivation. Yuan Wuxing lowered his voice to a whisper, as though speaking any louder would allow the human emperor to hear him. After he finished speaking, he looked at Zhang Li, expecting to see shock or horror in his face, but Zhang Li appeared indifferent, with even a faint hint of amusement. Chapter 5. Fury. Zhang Li truly wanted to laugh. When had he ever practiced the demonic path? The demonic path was a prime target for prohibition by the Imperial Palace. Anyone who dared to practice it should be ready to confront the entire cultivation world. There were dozens of paths to becoming immortal, ranging from cultivating the body, using magician insects, chi cultivation, and rune path methods, but one specific path was strictly forbidden in the cultivation world. That was the individual ascendancy of the demonic path. The demonic path is without taboo and stops at nothing. It reinforces one person by exploiting the masses. The countless deaths of others matter not, as long as one's survival and strength are guaranteed. Upon reaching the path of ascension, the 9 zones continent did not reject the demonic path, because even if practiced to the end, it would result in ascension within the acceptable limits of the 9 zones continent. However, after the ability to ascend was cut off, practitioners of the demonic path planned to blood sacrifice the 9 zones to create an immortal, perhaps achieving ascension and inciting massive bloodshed that decimated entire dynasties. Due to this, the 9 zones continent practitioners concurred on an unwritten agreement: whoever practiced the demonic path was executed without fail. Are you not surprised? Without concrete evidence, there's naturally no reason to be startled. The number of infants stolen by the Zhang family has exceeded hundreds. What could the Zhang family possibly do with so many infants? They must be performing blood rituals on the infants. They are replacing form with form, assisting others to break through to the nascent soul stage. This is pure demonic methods. Could the human emperor not be aware of this? With the human emperor's means, assisting others to reach the nascent soul stage is simple. However, he didn't prevent the Zhongs from using demonic techniques. This implies he's not merely indulging them but is himself a practitioner of the demonic path. Only a practitioner of the demonic path would forsake other legitimate methods of achieving the nascent soul stage and allow their family to use extreme demonic methods. Elder Zhong, if my conjecture is true, the current human emperor is a practitioner of the demonic path. The 9 zones continent would then be in peril. Elder Zhong, please convey this matter to your sect master. As Yuan Wuxing finished speaking, he tried to kneel to beg Zhong Li but found himself seemingly being pulled back by a strong hand, unable to kneel down. Elder Zhong, Yuan Wuxing wanted to say something more but saw Zhong Li gloomily rise and exit the room. Zhong Li's aura was quite intimidating, seeming on the brink of anger. Yuan Wuxing swallowed his saliva, refraining from speaking further. No matter how much Yuan Wuxing tried to discredit the human emperor with accusations like him secretly helping the Zhongs or secretly cultivating the demonic path, Zhong Li would simply laugh it off, not caring. He would take it in stride, knowing well he hadn't committed such deeds. However, Yuan Wuxing's conjecture about the Zhongs performing blood rituals on infants was different, as Zhong Li knew this could very likely be true. Otherwise, it would be hard to explain why the Zhongs needed so many infants. The Imperial Palace was the top force of the 9 zones continent against the practice of the demonic path, yet the Zhongs were potentially cultivating the demonic path under his name. Zhong Li's anger was uncontrollable. His divine sense spread hundreds of miles from his body, covering several city conditions, including Qingcheng, yet he found nothing. Not discovering anything was a problem in itself. He did not find any signs of infant blood sacrifices, nor did he spot any missing infants. Zhong Li specifically used his divine sense to scan the Yang's mansion. The Zhongs were carrying out their ancestral worship as usual, without any changes, and there were no secret basements or passages. Under these circumstances, either everything Yuan Wuxing said was false, or someone had hidden infants in another dimension. There were 2 ways to use space in the 9 zones continent. One way was to use the storage ring as a medium to enter the space at any time, but this space could not accommodate living things. The other was to find a space node. This space node was immobile, but it could accommodate living things. Secret territories operated on this principle. The location of the space node was extremely covert. Unless space was entered or exited, it was impossible to detect it from the outside. Do you have any definitive evidence for these matters you've discussed? For example, have you used a visual orb to record the conversation between the Yang's family head and the city lord? Seeing Zhong Li re-enter the room again, Yuan Wuxing noticed his expression was as calm as before, lacking any previous gloominess. No, using a visual orb at that time would have caused a mana fluctuation, which couldn't have been hidden from the nascent soul stage city lord. As for other evidence, there is none. Yuan Wuxing appeared rather disappointed at this admission but immediately added. The frequency of the Zhong's ancestral rituals matches that of the missing infants. I speculate that the Zhongs might be merely performing the ancestral rituals on the surface while actually performing blood sacrifices on infants. However, their precautionary measures during the ancestral rituals are excessively strict, and have been unsuccessful in my attempts to infiltrate over the years. At this moment, the Zhongs are performing ancestral rituals. You can perhaps try. Zhong Li shook his head. I've already visited the Zhongs and found nothing unusual. Oh. Zhong Li's mouth curled up slightly in a sneering smile. Speak of the devil, and he appears. Zhong Li's divine sense hadn't been withdrawn all this time, maintaining its surveillance within a 100-mile radius. On the outskirts of Qingcheng, under a large tree, the space distorted as an elderly man appeared in worn-out robes. The elderly man in worn-out robes carefully observed his surroundings. After confirming that no one was around, he rose into the air and flew towards the Zhong family shrine. Zhong Li did not follow the elderly man in worn-out robes to the Zhongs but dragged Yuan Wuxing to the space node on the outskirts of Qingcheng. With a gentle touch, the space formed ripples, eventually stabilizing into a space portal. This space was small, only the size of a cave. Upon entering, a pungent smell of blood assaulted them, causing Yuan Wuxing to cough. After Yuan Wuxing adjusted to the blood stench, he was horrified by the scene before him. Hundreds of skeletons shorter than a forearm were piled on both sides of the cave, carelessly thrown aside. Skulls were decoupled from the spine, and hands and legs were separated from the torso, creating a chaotic scene. At the end of the path was a blood-stained altar. On the altar lay dozens of infant corpses. Traces of blood slowly spread into the air from these remains, and the flesh visibly disappeared, contributing to the intense stench of blood. Shortly, one could even see the white bones at the fingertips. Yuan Wuxing could not hold back. He stumbled to the wall, bracing himself as he began to retch uncontrollably. However, he didn't brace himself well against the wall and slipped, falling into the pile of bones. He lacked the strength to stand up and continued to lie in the pile of bones, throwing up and crying simultaneously. Beasts. These Zhong beasts. How could they bear to do this? Don't they have children? Zhong Li's body was slightly trembling. He had participated in numerous operations to eliminate the demonic path and seen scenes more hateful and disgusting than this one. Still, when faced with such a sight again, he couldn't contain his emotions. Between gritted teeth, he spat out a few words. Bastard. Zhong Li did not follow the man in yellow robes, knowing that the man wouldn't be able to escape. His objective in coming here was to see if there was any possibility of rescuing anyone. But now it seemed not a single one could be rescued. The soothing rebirth mantra echoed through the tiny space. Initially, the chant was soft and hurried, with unclear content. However, as Zhong Li's anger surged, it grew louder and clearer. The final syllables caused the space to start trembling. Stones fell, making it seem as though a collapse was imminent. Zhong Elder Zhong. Yuan Wuxing stared dumbstruck at the enraged Zhong Li. Causing the space to tremble to the point of fragmentation with just his voice was clearly something beyond the ability of a nascent soul stage cultivator. Zhong Li turned his head to look at Yuan Wuxing, whose eye sockets were red. He bared his teeth in a chilling smile and said, "Let's pay a visit to the Zhongs." Chapter 6. I am the brother of the human Emperor Zhong. The elderly man kneeling in the ancestral hall of the Zhong family was the oldest member and the clan leader of the Zhong family. Seeing the arrival of the elder in the hemp robe, the clan leader of the Zhong family struggled to his feet, leaning on his cane, and greeted him with a smile. "Ancestor, you have emerged from your seclusion 2 days early. Does this mean you have broken through the peak of the nascent soul stage and entered the divinity transformation stage?" The elder in the hemp robe shook his head regretfully and said, "It's not that easy to enter the divinity transformation stage. It's a shame that the blood sacrifices of those infants didn't provide me with much aid in my cultivation. It seems that if I want to break through to the divinity transformation stage, I cannot solely rely on the blood sacrifices of infants. I need to find other methods." A flicker of regret flashed across the face of the clan leader, saying, "Just now, a servant came with news that the parents of the lost children have been spreading the news everywhere in Qingcheng, even causing a disturbance at the city lord's mansion. I'm afraid it will be hard to suppress this time. It might be a good idea for the ancestor to find another method. We have stolen too many infants over the years. People are beginning to suspect us." "Who?" A golden core stage loose cultivator called Yuan Wuxing. "He has been trying to sneak into our ancestral ceremonies over the last few years." The elder in the hemp robe chuckled dismissively. "It appears he has noticed the correlation between the frequency of the ancestral sacrifices and the frequency of the infant kidnappings. A lone cultivator like him will make an excellent blood sacrifice. By the way, since those bereft parents have been causing a commotion, why don't we just go ahead and catch them for a joint blood sacrifice? It would make for a nice reunion." "Yes, how touching. Why don't you go down and reunite with your parents?" "Who?" The elder in the hemp robe turned back in anger, wondering who made such a degrading comment, while simultaneously retreating rapidly. He didn't sense anyone approaching him. Those who could escape his keen senses were either cultivators at the peak of the nascent soul stage who were proficient in stealth spells or those at the divinity transformation stage. He consecutively cast numerous spells, all were slapped into oblivion by Zhong Li. Without uttering a word, Zhong Li just slapped the elder in the hemp robe, sending him crashing into the table where the ancestral tablet lay. The tablet shattered and half of the elder's teeth were knocked out. "You." The elder in the hemp robe was greatly surprised. He could feel that Zhong Li was at the same cultivation stage as him, at the peak of the nascent soul stage, but Zhong Li's movements were too fast for him to react. Zhong Li had experienced countless life and death battles, and he was extremely battle-hardened. Not to mention suppressing his cultivation to the nascent soul stage, even if it were reduced to the golden core stage, he could easily defeat the elder in the hemp robe. Zhong Li remained emotionless, continuing the battle in silence. He pinned the elder in the hemp robe on the table and pounded him with one punch after another, each stronger than the last. Throughout this, he even heard the system's notification sound. "Congratulations to the host for defeating Zhang Yixing. The novice task is completed." Hearing the system's prompt, Zhong Li showed no joy, but continued to ruthlessly beat Zhang Yixing using the strength of the nascent soul stage. He was afraid that using greater strength could kill Zhang Yixing instantly. From the moment Zhang Li used his divine sense to scan the spatial node, he recognized that the elder in the hemp robe was Zhang Yixing. However, with his changed appearance, Zhang Yixing did not recognize him as Zhang Li. "Do you know who I am? I am Zhang, the human emperor, Zhang Li's older brother." Zhang Yixing managed to stutter out. Due to losing half his teeth, his words were somewhat slurred. "Really? Zhang Li's older brother? Such prestige. Even the human emperor is less prestigious than you. Create your own ancestral tablet. Do you know that you deserve to die? Or are you just faking your death?" Zhang Li felt an unbearable rage in his heart, his eyes were bloodshot. With every word he said, he landed a punch. He continued to punch Zhang Yixing until he was bleeding from all 7 orifices and became semi-conscious, only then did he stop. A few more punches would have killed him. Zhang Li picked up the broken ancestral tablet with Zhang Yixing's name inscribed on it and snorted coldly. Using the power of faith accumulated from the ancestral sacrifices to dissipate the resentment of the infant souls in your body, sneaky. Zhang Li dragged Zhang Yixing by his ankle and walked out. As he crossed the threshold, Zhang Yixing's head banged hard against the doorframe, causing a resounding noise. The Zhang family members heard the commotion in the ancestral hall, and upon seeing Zhang Li, they prepared to kill him. Except for a few, most of the Zhang family assumed Zhang Yixing was already dead. Not recognizing him, they attacked Zhang Li without avoiding Zhang Yixing. Several of the attacks landed on him, but compared to Zhang Li's punches, these attacks were nothing. Zhang Yixing would not die from them. Zhang Li easily blocked all moves with his free hand, defeating each attacker with ease. "Senior, what are you?" Yuan Wuxing followed behind, shocked at Zhang Li's actions. Storming the Zhang family's residence, capturing the primary culprit, these were things he didn't even dare to think of. "What am I doing? Zhou has set the nation by law, naturally, we need to report to the authorities. Killing Zhang Yixing now would disturb the nation's fortune." Zhang Li explained as if it were perfectly reasonable. But the city lord is in cahoots with the Zhang family. Yuan Wuxing was puzzled about what Zhang Li was intending to do. All he could sense was that this Dao sect traveler possessed profound mana and was unpredictable in his actions. Indeed, how else can we discover how many people dare to shield the Zhang family, whether it's only the city lord, the entire mansion, or perhaps even higher up, Zhang Li said coldly. If the Zhou emperor wouldn't intervene, he, as the human emperor, would take it upon himself to intervene on behalf of the Zhou emperor. Yuan Wuxing listened with enthusiasm. This was like a movement to overturn the heavens. "Go and bring the parents of the lost children here, tell them that the murderer has been found and is undergoing trial in the city lord's mansion." Yes, the city lord of Qingcheng, surnamed Zheng, regarded his political career highly successful. Starting from the position of a minor official, he had repeatedly been favored by powerful benefactors and continuously promoted. Now, he seated himself in the position of the city lord of Qingcheng, a seat coveted by many of his peers. Teaming up with the Zhang family virtually meant teaming up with the human emperor. It should be noted that a few previous city lords of Qingcheng held high positions now, the highest-ranking one even became the magistrate. This aroused much envy in Zheng. As usual, Zheng, the city lord, was preparing to rest early. During the evening, although it wasn't time to leave work yet, as the city lord, leaving half an hour earlier wouldn't raise many eyebrows. However, just as he was about to rest, his subordinate reported that someone outside had a major case that required his judgment. Zheng, the city lord, was unhappy. A major case meant it couldn't be resolved quickly, and his off-duty time would be delayed. "Go tell the person outside that I have urgent matters to attend to and instruct him to come back tomorrow." "Master, according to that man, he has caught the culprit who kidnapped the children. It's the presumably deceased elder of the Zhang family, Zhang Yixing, who is now severely beaten and unconscious. The commoners have gathered around our entrance upon hearing the news. Damn it, why didn't you say this earlier?" The city lord's face turned pale. Upsetting his careless subordinate, he promptly got dressed and sat in the main hall. "Bring the noisy person outside here." Sitting in the hall, Zheng exuded an aura of solemnity and authority. Zhang Li strode into the main hall, dragging Zhang Yixing like a chicken. Beside him was an excited but apprehensive Yuan Wuxing, behind him were crying and cursing parents, followed by a group of onlookers. The laws of Zhou clearly stipulate that local officials should try cases in public. At this moment, Zheng, the city lord, greatly hated this law. Under the public scrutiny, it would be very hard for him to shield the Zhang family. Chapter 7. Who is 5 Yuan Rou? "Sir, I have a major case to report." Zhang Li placed Zhang Yixing on the ground, bowing to the city lord. The great Zhou was enlightened and did not require kneeling. Speak. My name is Zhang Li, I am from Qingchang, a nascent soul loose cultivator, and this is my companion Yuan Wuxing, a golden core loose cultivator. We heard about the frequent disappearances of babies in Qingchang in recent years and the lack of manpower in the Qingchang government, so we investigated this privately, and eventually we caught the ringleader. Zhang Li paused for a moment, pointing to Zhang Yixing on the ground. The ringleader is none other than the Zhang family's ancestor, Zhang Yixing. Upon hearing Zhang Li's words, the crowd outside the hall were instantly in an uproar. More than a dozen parents who lost their children burst into tears upon hearing this. Without the guards holding them back, they would have stormed into the hall demanding Zhang Yixing pay with his life. They were told by Yuan Wuxing that their children had been sacrificed. Zhang Li, words cannot be spoken irresponsibly. The Zhang family has been reputable for generations, and has even produced the heroic human emperor. If your accusations are baseless and mere guesses, I will have to charge you with defamation, said the city lord, speaking mildly but with an underlying threat. There is naturally evidence. Why would the Zhang family frequently steal babies? Zhang Yixing is a mediocre cultivator, who struggled to even attain the golden core stage. Therefore, he resorted to demonic means, sacrificing babies' blood to supplement his nascent soul, thereby extending his lifespan. Zhang Li ignored the city lord's threat and calmly analyzed. Am I right, Zhang Yixing? Zhang Li bent over and looked at Zhang Yixing, whose face was aged but rosy. This was a result of absorbing the baby's blood and vitality. Who are you really? Zhang Yixing lay on the ground, unable to move from his serious injuries, greatly shocked. Apart from those of his generation and those in Qingchang, who would know that he had a mediocre cultivation, vested at the foundation establishment stage, and struggling to achieve the golden core stage. Zhang Li transmitted the message. Don't you recognize me, cousin? Zhang Yixing widened his eyes, and through his pupils, he could faintly see the resemblance to the person who had left home years ago from Zhang Li's changing appearance. Enormous fear enveloped Zhang Yixing. If Zhang Li personally dealt with the Zhang family, then he would have no chance of survival. Not even the intervention of the Qingchang city lord, or even the emperor of the Great Zhou, would be of use. He wanted to use all his strength to shout out Zhang Li's name, but he was secretly knocked unconscious by a spell cast by Zhang Li, and didn't know when he would wake up. Upon hearing that Zhang Yixing had practiced demonic cultivation, the surrounding crowd began whispering among themselves, resulted in lively discussions. The ancestor of the Zhang family, the cousin of the human emperor, was actually practicing demonic cultivation. This was a major scandal. If news got out, it would likely be ridiculed by people from other empires, joking at their pride in the law yet unable to maintain strict governance, and the rampant demonic cultivation in the hometown of the human emperor. The clan leader of the Zhangs, leaning on his walking stick, slowly approached. The crowd automatically parted a path for him. Seeing that the ancestor had fallen and was unconscious, he hurriedly checked and was relieved when he found out that the ancestor was only injured and unconscious, not fundamentally damaged. He then angrily said to Zhang Li, "Are you suggesting that our ancestor practiced using infants and therefore definitely has infant resentment in him? Alright, feel free to check. But remember, if you cannot find any infant resentment, you will pay for defaming the Zhang family and Qingchang." What the clan leader of Zhang said was a common method of detecting demonic cultivation on the 9 provinces continent. Demonic cultivation is harmful to others and beneficial to oneself, hence resentment often exists in the body. Moreover, for someone like Zhang Yixing who had practiced with the sacrifice of hundreds of babies, the resentment in his body was likely to be sky high. Zhang Li chuckled softly. The clan leader of the Zhangs is really confused. Aren't you afraid that you've forgotten how you used the power of faith to vanquish the resentment in Zhang Yixing's body? The clan leader of the Zhangs turned pale when his thoughts were exposed by Zhang Li. Few people knew about this, and he didn't understand how Zhang Li knew about it. But thinking about this was of no use anymore. It was most important to settle this matter as soon as possible. Although resentment can be eradicated, the bones of the infants are still there. I stumbled upon a spatial node where piles of infant bones were found. The Lord may want to take people to have a look. Sir, don't listen to his nonsense. This man has only been in the city for 1 day, and had never been to Qingchang before. How could anyone find a spatial node just by chance in 1 day, and insist that it belongs to our Zhang family? This man must have been hired by other families to defame our Zhang family. Please recognize the truth. The reason why the clan leader of the Zhangs was late was to send someone to investigate Zhang Li's identities in secret and to ensure all pieces of evidence were dealt with properly. Unfortunately, it was too hasty, and they only found out that Zhang Li had just arrived in Qingcheng. The spatial node had not been thoroughly cleaned up. It's late and this case is complicated. It's hard to reach a conclusion. In order to find out the truth, the trial will be resumed at a later date. The city lord swept a glance at the unconscious Zhang Yixing and another at the troublesome Zhang Li. He paused, and continued. Zhang Yixing is to be temporarily thrown into the dungeon. Dismiss the middle. After dismissing the meeting, the city lord no longer maintained his previous composure. He hurriedly met with the clan leader of the Zhangs in the secret chamber for an urgent discussion. I told you to stop, but you didn't listen. Now, your secret has been exposed, complained the city lord. What can I do? The ancestor insisted on doing this. Who can stop him? Countered the clan leader of the Zhangs, but he lacked confidence. At first, you told me that the human emperor suggested this. It's the ancestor who insisted on doing this. The human emperor reluctantly agreed. The clan leader of the Zhangs quickly filled in the gap in his words. Can't the human emperor personally intervene and suppress the matter? If he is involved, even his majesty will have to give some face. It's difficult. The human emperor always acts at his own discretion. He comes and goes as he pleases. The Zhang family doesn't have a way to contact him. The clan leader of the Zhangs really wanted to say where was the human emperor. If they could really contact the human emperor, would they have to deceive the city lord round after round? Of course, these words couldn't be said out loud. So, what should we do now? We need to be prepared. The ancestor has always been cautious in his actions. The only place that could be called evidence is the location where the babies were sacrificed. I have sent people to deal with it, but it's hard to say what those two people can come up with. Yuan Wuxing is easy to deal with, he is timid and indecisive. However, that Zhang Li is not easy to handle. I had never heard of him before, yet his combat power is extremely high. Judging from his action of capturing the ancestor alive, he could even be called the top expert in Qingcheng. It's not advisable to resort to martial force. I will go and find him personally tonight to see if I can persuade them to leave. This matter involves the reputation of the human emperor. He should be mindful of the emperor's reputation and not insist on accusing the ancestor. That's a very good plan, said the city lord, stroking his beard and nodding his head. But there's one more question. What? Who is Yuan Wuxing? Chapter 8. The Lobbyist. After bidding farewell to the grateful parents and refusing any gifts, the two returned to Yuan Wuxing's small courtyard. You were pretty articulate when facing me, but why did you stay silent in the court? Maybe the city lord didn't even notice you, Zhang Li said. Yuan Wuxing scratched his head and chuckled. Too nervous, I've never been in such a situation, and my mind was a bit slow. Zhang Li surprisingly laughed and said, 10 years spent investigating the colossal Zhang family, knowing the chances are slim but still persisting. If anyone says you lack resolve, they must be blind. But you are always timid at crucial moments. That happened today with the Zhang family and in the court, even when you tried to break through the nascent soul stage. We in the Tao sect emphasize the cultivation of both our life force and character, but you are only cultivating your character, not your life force. Yuan Wuxing felt thunderstruck. Indeed, it was just as Zhang Li had described. Whenever he attempted to break through to the nascent soul stage, he was always hesitant, his thoughts crashing in like waves. He tried to convince himself that he was still young. Why take the risk of death to make the breakthrough? Wasn't it better to enjoy 100 more years before attempting again? Does the nascent soul stage serve any purpose? Above the nascent soul stage, there is the divinity transformation. When will his cultivation ever end? So many others had failed in reaching the nascent soul stage, why should he be any different? As a result, he had often failed despite being on the brink of breaking through. Thank you for enlightening me, Yuan Wuxing respectfully bowed to Zhang Li. Zhang Li simply smiled and didn't say anything. Remembering something, Yuan Wuxing anxiously asked, Zhang, I suspect the Zhang family will send people to that space to destroy evidence. We must stop them quickly. I'm hoping they will go to that space, otherwise, how can we escalate the matter? Zhang Li signaled Yuan Wuxing to calm down without telling him the reason. Regardless, Yuan Wuxing believed Zhang Li's words and calmed himself. Interestingly, Yuan Wuxing began to trust Zhang Li unquestioningly, even though they barely spent a day together. Just then, a knock was heard at the door. Is Mr. Zhang Li and Mr. Yuan Wuxing in? The knock was gentle. Upon realizing there was no answer coming from inside, they did not repeat the action, but simply stood respectfully outside the door, showcasing commendable manners. Yuan Wuxing opened the door, his hand trembled uncontrollably, but he barely restrained himself from attacking the person outside. I'm well aware of my guilt towards the world. If beating me up would alleviate your anger, I wouldn't utter a second word of protest, the person said. Clan leader Zhang was waiting outside the door, leaning on a crutch and wearing an apologetic expression. Despite his golden core stage cultivation, he was meeting a golden core expert and a nascent soul expert without any bodyguards by his side. How could Yuan Wuxing not hold a grudge against clan leader Zhang? If Zhang Yixing was the chief culprit, then clan leader Zhang was his primary accomplice. The deaths of those infants could definitely be blamed on clan leader Zhang. What are you doing here, threatening us? Yuan Wuxing, in the end, didn't attack. He merely sat down on a chair with a sarcastic smile, sipping tea in large gulps. He dared not act rashly. Who knew what kind of trick this old man might have up his sleeve? It was best to avoid unnecessary trouble. To his surprise, clan leader Zhang threw his crutch aside immediately upon entering the house and fell to his knees. Yuan Wuxing was startled, almost dropping his teacup. Zhang Li looked at clan leader Zhang with interest, curious about what this younger generation man would do next. Even though our ancestors made mistakes, none is bigger than those committed by the human emperor. If the information about the human emperor practicing demonic arts spreads across the 9 provinces, the public might harbor suspicions and might even be manipulated by unsavory individuals. This can pose a huge threat to the human emperor's reputation. Outside the 9 provinces, the heavenly demons are eyeing us like a tiger watches its prey. Thanks to the human emperors across generations who raised the flag of the 9 provinces to resist the heavenly demons, the 9 provinces have managed to avoid calamity. The human emperor's strength comes from people's faith. If the human race's faith in the human emperor wavers, the human emperor's strength will inevitably diminish. This poses a great danger to our 9 provinces. I know you too care for the people and are men of justice. Though my Zhang family is a villain behind the scenes, our stance against the heavenly demons aligns. I implore you to consider the countless beings of the 9 provinces and let this matter go. I thank you in advance for your understanding. With that, clan leader Zhang actually bowed down and knocked his forehead against the ground 3 times, causing 3 dull thuds. When he stood up and looked up, his face was streaming with tears. Yuan Wuxing was moved by clan leader Yang's heartfelt words and actions, and thought of letting this matter go. After all, it wouldn't be a good thing if it actually had any impact on the human emperor. Rationally, so what if the human emperor practiced demonic arts? He did so to combat the heavenly demons and protect the world's people. Yuan Wuxing was almost convinced by clan leader Zhang. After all, clan leader Yang's words made sense, and the possibility of it destabilizing belief in the human emperor was truly possible. The strength of the human emperor is based on his own formidable capabilities, and the faith of previous human emperors. These 2 factors multiply and have led to the human emperor's terrifying power. Despite not being an immortal, the human emperor is virtually just as powerful. Outside the 9 provinces, there is spatial chaos caused by the heavenly demons attack every few hundred years, each one bringing an existential threat to the 9 provinces. The human emperor, as the foremost expert of the 9 provinces, is always at the forefront of the battle against the heavenly demons. More than half of the human emperors died during this process, with few having a peaceful death. If the human emperor's faith weakens and he succumbs in future battles with the heavenly demons, Yuan Wuxing would live with the guilt for the rest of his life. Your words do make sense, clan leader Zhang. But if the Zhang family had been aware of the potential damage it could cause to people's faith in the human emperor, why did they still proceed with the infant sacrifices? With a shameful look, clan leader Zhang replied, our ancestors succumbed to the pleasures of the mortal world and wanted to break through the nascent soul stage to live longer. We can't help but regret our actions, and it's now too late to make amends. Zhang Li expressed his surprise. What are you talking about, clan leader Zhang? If the Zhang family intends to correct their mistakes, how could I not support you? A glimmer of hope sparked in clan leader Yang's heart. It seemed those who claimed to be men of justice couldn't be coerced or bribed. They can only be persuaded with righteousness. However, Zhang Li continued. Even if Yuan Wuxing and I no longer accuse the Zhang family, other cultivators will come to investigate this matter. Here is a way out for you. According to the laws of the Great Zhou, we do not hold deceased people accountable. I encourage Zhang Yixing to acknowledge his mistake, correct it, and end his own life. Abruptly, the smile on clan leader Yang's face froze as he struggled to find words to refute Zhang Li's suggestion. Indeed, if his ancestor were to die, the issue would be settled. However, how could this be possible? He came to distract them from causing any further trouble. How could they turn things around and sentence his ancestor to death in the process? Mr. Zhang Li, you must be joking, clan leader Zhang could only utter awkwardly. I'm just pouring out my heart, said Zhang Li. His face turning grim, clan leader Zhang slowly rose to his feet, abandoning the previously mournful demeanor. It seems Mr. Zhang Li is determined to pursue this matter until the very end, he observed coldly. It was only then that Yuan Wuxing realized that everything had been a play, and he felt a wave of fear wash over him. These old foxes are indeed terrifying, you can't trust a single word or expression. Thank heavens, Zhang Li was present. It's not about pursuing or ending anything, just a penchant for seeing things through to the end, clan leader Zhang. Please. With an icy scoff, clan leader Zhang swung his sleeve and left. Chapter 9, Dragon Tiger Arhat Power, and Zhang Li Human Emperor Power. Senior Zhang, why don't we give up on this? Yuan Wuxing tried to suggest while shrinking his neck. You're afraid? Who would be scared of those beasts in the Zhang family? The sight of their bones still fills me with rage. Yuan Wuxing retorted, his neck stiffened and his forehead veins bulged out. However, he soon drooped again. If we really disturb the faith in the human emperor and as a result, affect the fight against heavenly demons, then we would really become the sinners of all time. The death of hundreds of babies is undoubtedly a big issue. But the human emperor's protection of Jojo is even more significant. If Yuan Wuxing were to choose, he'd probably opt for the latter. Zhang Li chuckled. You're overthinking, he said. My sect's leader once told me that the current human emperor is exceptionally talented, surpasses the previous emperors. The power addition from faith to Emperor Zhang, it's good if he has it, and it won't affect anything if he doesn't. Yuan Wuxing immediately felt relieved. What Zhang Li didn't say was that every time he survived the heavenly tribulation, he got slightly stronger. After his fourth tribulation, he didn't need the power of faith anymore. 160 years ago, he had refined a bronze ding and placed it in the imperial palace. All the faith towards him from all of Jojo didn't bless him but entered into the bronze ding, saved for the next human emperor. System. At the silence of midnight, Zhang Li called out the system interface. Congratulations to the host for enduring hard training and tough battles, defeated Zhang Yisheng. Do you want to check out the reward? Zhang Li twitched at the corners of his mouth, wanting to ask when the so-called hard training and tough battles happened. Suppressing his urge to retort, Zhang Li said, settle the reward. A stream of pure power descended from the void into Zhang Li's body. This power, Zhang Li showed a surprised expression, is actually less than what I generate with a single breath. Oh, it's meant for the qi cultivation stage. That's all right then. According to Zhang Li's estimate, if he had this power during his foundation establishment stage, he would have achieved a perfect state. This treatment was something that only the core disciples of large sects had, with a much more robust foundation than the regular foundation establishment cultivators and multiple times the combat effectiveness. Good stuff, Zhang Li made a compliment, and then he expelled this power from his body. Who would refine a power of unknown origin as a joke? Following that, a bamboo book tied with a thin red thread fell from the void. It was called Dragon Tiger Arhat Power, a body cultivation technique. According to the introduction of this cultivation technique, as one goes deeper into its practice, it gradually alters the practitioner's blood. When one's emotions surge, it can burst out with incomparable power. The level of the cultivation technique is broken down according to animal forces, such as the power of one bull, one tiger, one elephant, one zhao, one dragon, and so on. The benchmark for initial success is to have the power of one tiger, for medium success one dragon's power, and for the accomplished stage, the integration of dragon and tiger power. Those who practiced till the accomplished stage could fight against a true dragon when extremely angry, which is extremely savage. Having finished reading the introduction within 2 minutes and doing some quick estimations for 3 minutes, Zhang Li's conclusion was, he had wasted 5 minutes. This body cultivation technique was powerful, that even a divinity transformation stage cultivator would see it as a treasure. But for Zhang Li, it was useless. Now the dragon clan of the Four Seas all practiced a technique called Zhang Li Human Emperor Power, rumored to be compiled personally by the Four Sea Dragon Kings. Those who practiced till the accomplished stage could arm wrestle with Emperor Zhang Li's one hand. Judging by the results, no dragon clan member has been able to beat Zhang Li's one hand yet. As for other things, such as elixirs with Dan clouds and Dan fragrances, middle-grade spirit swords, Zhang Li had no interest at all. He allocated a special area in his storage ring for the system and put these elixirs, treasures and body cultivation techniques in one pile, attaching a label which read, "The useless things given by the lonely system number 2. Obviously, the newbie gift pack was number 1. Release new task. After you join the Transform Cloud sect, the son of the Supreme Elder, Yun Bo, believes that your 5 elements spiritual root pulls down the average level of the sect's spiritual roots, and gives you a hard time everywhere. Please defeat him with overwhelming strength. This task can be abandoned. Reward for this task: 1 chance of enlightenment dropping from the sky, 1 fragment of a mysterious map, 1 top-grade spiritual artifact of any style can be advanced. This time, Zhang Li could quickly recall who Yun Bo was. The Transform Cloud sect was a small sect near Qingcheng, with a sect leader who was in the late stage of Golden Core, and 5 Golden Core elders. When Zhang Li first demonstrated only the worst 5 elements spiritual root, no sect wanted to accept him. Zhang Li took advantage of the purchasing activities of the Transform Cloud sect's disciples, inferred that the Transform Cloud sect was tight on funds. He got an opportunity to talk with the sect leader. He explained the local economic situation and some money-making tips. The sect leader was awestruck and allowed Zhang Li to take over the sect's finances under his supervision despite the general opposition. Zhang Li did not disappoint. He reversed the deficit situation of the Transform Cloud sect, even acquired several small sects, and after finally receiving the Transform Cloud sect's core cultivation techniques and guidance from the Supreme Elder, Zhang Li once again embarked on his journey across Zhou. During this time, Yun Bo grouped up and bullied the newbie. Zhang Li and the Supreme Elder had a discussion. They faked the Elder's death. Those who followed Yun Bo scattered, and Yun Bo finally understood that cultivation was the most critical after experiencing the warmth and harshness of human nature. Then he admitted his mistakes and began to cultivate diligently. When I returned to the Transform Cloud sect 300 years ago, Yun Bo had already cultivated to the nascent soul stage. In addition to the few lifespan extension pills I gave him, it won't be a problem for him to still be alive. Zhang Li decided not to abandon the mission for now. That fragment of a mysterious map attracted him. A new function has been opened. Store. Zhang Li was delighted. Finally a function that looked interesting. He brought up the store. A light screen appeared in his mind like a computer. Items were neatly arranged on it, and there were plenty. Whenever his consciousness focused on an item, the light screen would display the item's brief introduction. However, Zhang Li was disappointed soon. All the items displayed on the light screen were things from this world. There were neither cell phones, computers, nuclear bombs, satellites from his past life nor special products from the immortal realm. Whether there were mobile phones or not did not matter. He mainly wanted to try what it felt like to resist a nuclear bomb with his physical body. System, aren't there any products from other worlds? Please find other worlds first. Zhang Li curled his lips. Yet another useless function. If he could go to other places, would he need this system? System, help me sort by the number of source points needed, from high to low. The quantity of items on the light screen changed quickly. The methods of the Imperial Palace were ranked at the forefront, followed by the Dao sect's treasure Yin Yang Sky Seal, then the bottom line treasures of other sects and palaces, the Transcendence Tribulation Stage Puppet, the Immortals Notes and so on. Although these things are good, Zhang Li either used them or found them useless. For instance, during the fight against the heavenly demons from outside the realm, the Dao sect had lent Zhang Li the Taiji Sky Seal. Zhang Li tried to use the seal a few times but found his own weapons to be handier, so he returned the seal to the Dao sect. He had no use for a Transcendence Tribulation Stage Puppet either. As a magnificent Mahayana stage cultivator, what would he do with a Transcendence Tribulation Stage Puppet? As for the Immortals Notes, he had read them in exchange for sharing his cultivation experience. Moreover, Zhang Li suspected that these items didn't just appear from thin air but were stolen from the sects. Chapter 10. Tracing Back Time. The Zhang family acted quickly, taking just half a night to completely cleanse the space and spending another 2 days and 2 nights covering their tracks and ensuring nothing would incriminate them. They then informed City Lord Zhang that they could proceed with the trial once more. As clan leader Zhang predicted, the two without any evidence stood no chance. City Lord Zhang now had every legitimate reason to proclaim Zhang Yixing innocent due to lack of proof, going as far as accusing Zhang Li and Yuan Wuxing of intentionally hurting Zhang Yixing. What clan leader Zhang didn't foresee was that their family ancestor, Zhang Yixing, was still unconscious, and no reason could be identified even by the physicians. This court rules that Zhang Yixing is innocent. If you too disagree with this verdict, you may appeal to the magistrate's office within 15 days from today. Zhang Li walked forward and handed a piece of paper to City Lord Zhang as if he'd been waiting for this moment. This is an appeal. Seeing Zhang Li's calm face, City Lord Zhang felt extremely displeased, especially when he saw that Zhang had already prepared the appeal document. It was clear that Zhang had anticipated this outcome before the trial began, having written the appeal document in advance. However, what difference would it make? The official who would handle this case was also promoted from the position of Qingcheng City Lord, and had previously helped cover up the baby stealing situation for the Zhang family. Even if the magistrate was a fair person, what could these two arrogant fellows achieve without any evidence? Could they win by being stubborn? The Dazhou dynasty consisted of 26 prefectures, each of which governed several major cities. The present Qingcheng was one of these big cities under the jurisdiction of Tianqing Prefecture. Of course, the appeal should be submitted to Gong Peng, the magistrate of Tianqing Prefecture. After receiving the appeal, Magistrate Gong summoned clan leader Zhang and city lord Zeng for a detailed questioning. After getting a full understanding of the matter, he was assured. Zhang Li, Yuan Wuxing, let me remind you before the trial begins, the verdict passed by this court is the final decision. Unless new evidence emerges that could overturn the original verdict, neither of you two can appeal the case again. Make sure you understand. Magistrate Gong sat in the center of the hall, with Zhang Li and Yuan Wuxing on one side, and clan leader Zhang on the other. Given that Zhang Yixing was still unconscious, there was no point in making him appear. Clan leader Zhang, although expressionless as usual, was likely secretly gleeful in Yuan Wuxing's view. Outside the hall were a scattered few dozens of people, far fewer than before since it was widely known that Zhang Li and Yuan Wuxing wouldn't win due to lack of evidence. City Lord Zeng was among them, ready to watch the show. Understood, Zhang Li responded loudly, with Yuan Wuxing also echoing. However, before the government assembly, I wish to add one more defendant. You could, but this court's verdict will remain final. You cannot appeal based on the addition of a defendant. Zhang Li nodded in acknowledgement and stood with his hands behind his back, chin slightly raised. I accuse Qingcheng City Lord Zeng of abusing his power during his tenure to cover up Zhang Yixing's baby stealing incident and destroying crucial evidence. I request Magistrate Gong for a ruling. These words alarmed clan leader Zhang, and he sensed danger. While an accusation against a city lord required officials of third rank or higher for approval, indeed, Magistrate Gong was of the third rank. As far as legality was concerned, Zhang was within his rights. However, clan leader Zhang was puzzled about Zhang Li's intention. Could accusing a city lord really help him win? He felt like he was forgetting something. Being unfamiliar with laws, clan leader Zhang was unsure of Zhang Li's goal. However, city lord Zeng and Magistrate Gong immediately understood. The prospect of what Zhang Li might do sent a shiver down their spines. These two nascent soul cultivators who had weathered many storms suddenly became a cold, nervous wreck. I suspect that the crucial piece of evidence in this case, the space where the blood sacrifice ritual was done on the baby, was tampered with by City Lord Zeng. I request that Magistrate Gong petition the court to use time regression to restore the site. Zhang Li's words shattered the last bit of hope that they were clinging on to. This matter will be reported to the court. They had no significant backing in the court. Among the 9 great dynasties, only the Dazhou dynasty had the audacity and capability to establish the country by law and govern by law. The basis of this was the Dazhou royal family's mastery over time manipulation, enabling them to travel back in time. However, manipulating time had serious karmic consequences, and should not be used recklessly. Therefore, Dazhou had decreed certain special circumstances under which time manipulation could be used, such as when a case had a huge national impact, or when it involved the integrity of officials ranked 7 or above. And City Lord Zeng was a 5th rank official. You're slinging mud at me. City Lord Zeng could no longer maintain his dignity, he shouted in defiance. City Lord Zeng truly felt wronged. The Zhang family was responsible for destroying the space. As far as this case was concerned, he was just a witness. How did his role get twisted into that of a perpetrator in this kid's accusations? Zhang Li did not care about Zeng's outcry. Whether or not City Lord Zeng was involved in tampering with the space did not matter. What mattered was that he was a defendant in this case. Zhang Li, are you genuinely applying for court-ordered time regression? Magistrate Gong glared at Zhang Li, his gaze icy. He felt that Zhang Li had set a trap for him. More critically, checking the facts through time regression would not only reveal who sabotaged the space nexus but also expose Zhang Yixing practicing demonic cultivation in that space. Once Zhang Yixing's demonic cultivation was uncovered, everyone who had served as the city lord in Qingcheng would come under the court's scrutiny. Yuan Wuxing finally understood why Zhang Li had let the Zhang family destroy the space nexus. He had been waiting for this moment. I am certain, are you really applying for it? Magistrate Gong repeated his question, word by word, his formidable nascent soul aura unleashed like a roaring tiger. The bailiffs, trembling in fear, knelt first, followed by clan leader Zhang and Yuan Wuxing. I am certain. Yang's expression remained as cool as ever, seemingly oblivious to Magistrate Gong's killing intent. He even took out the appeal document he had prepared in advance from his sleeve and placed it in front of Gong. Seeing the freshly inked appeal document, Magistrate Gong barely restrained himself from killing Zhang Li on the spot. But, in the end, he didn't dare to strike. If he were to make a move now, it would lead to his complete downfall. Zhang Li, it is, isn't it? You're very good, really good. Magistrate Gong slammed his palm on his desk, shattering it in rage. He stormed off in anger, with clan leader Zhang and city lord Zeng trailing behind, their faces grim. As Magistrate Gong left, the killing intent gradually dissipated, allowing Yuan Wuxing to recover some strength and slowly stand up. Look at you, scared out of your wits by his aura alone. You are at the peak of the golden core stage, it's disgraceful. Zhang Li laughed scornfully. Yuan Wuxing replied with a bitter smile. Elder Zhang, Magistrate Gong is at the peak of the nascent soul stage. We of the golden core stage cannot stand up to these high-level threats. Zhang Li snorted. Excuses. I've killed nascent soul cultivators when I was at the peak of the golden core stage. Yuan Wuxing was taken aback, and after a pause, he managed to come up with a reply. Elder, you're really skilled. Yuan Wuxing was genuinely impressed by Zhang Li. As a rogue of the Dao sect, he held a position even higher than that of the princes of Dazhou dynasty. Any official of the first or second rank would greet him with a smile. Despite this, Zhang Li didn't exploit his status, and instead, forced the Zhang family into a corner step by step, strictly following the laws of Dazhou. Amazing. Chapter 11. The Human Emperor's Stupid Fan. Reaching a deserted place, the Magistrate Gong slapped clan leader Zhang across the face, sending him spinning in midair before he landed, his mouth full of blood. Damned fool, assigning you as the city lord of Qingcheng was my biggest mistake. If your old ancestor wants to live longer, he should find his own way instead of making us clean up after him. Didn't you say that your ancestor's cultivation of the demonic path was tacitly approved by the human emperor? Hurry up and contact the human emperor, only his intervention can save us now. Clan leader Zhang grunted, spat out a mouthful of blood, and replied. The human emperor has always contacted us, we have never contacted him. Magistrate Gong now suspected that the human emperor was completely unaware of Zhang Yixing's practice of the demonic path. Even the human emperor, who was generally impartial, had never visited the Zhang family. But it was pointless to investigate these matters now. So you're saying that we can't count on the human emperor? Magistrate Gong's face was so gloomy it seemed as if it could drip water. There's only one plan that might work. What is it? To send someone to kill Zhang Li? Clan leader Zhang and the ex-city lord asked eagerly. Idiots. If Zhang Li gets killed right after applying for a time trace, this would not just be killing Zhang Li, it would be a slap in the face to the royal court. If the court ignores this matter, where would its authority be? When an investigation is eventually made, we will all be doomed. Magistrate Gong cursed, his 100 years' worth of restraint broken twice in one day. Once by Zhang Li, the once by these two fools. The third prince has always admired the human emperor and wanted to promote us officials who were previously city lords of Qingcheng. Now, our only hope lies in persuading the third prince to shield us during the time trace to save our lives. But who among us is qualified to meet with the third prince? Magistrate Gong laughed coldly. After becoming the city lord of Qingcheng, I wasn't the only one who got promoted. Their current positions are not low. Once this mess unfolds, none of us can escape. We must ask them for help. The human emperor's cousin cultivates the demonic path and has even gotten the human emperor's tacit approval. Could this be true? The third prince stood up, his face filled with disbelief. Your Highness, it is true. I learned of this during my tenure as an official in Qingcheng and it shocked me greatly. The officials who had once served as city lords in Qingcheng pulled all their strings, finally getting Magistrate Gong a chance to see the third prince. After entering the capital, Magistrate Gong rehearsed his story multiple times before daring to meet the third prince. The human emperor values his friendships and invests heavily in them. Since he is the human emperor, he cannot express his favoritism openly. He probably couldn't bear to see his cousin die, which is why he hinted that his cousin could cultivate the demonic path to extend his life. Now, once it's proven that the human emperor's cousin has cultivates the demonic path, maybe the fact that the human emperor hinted at practicing demonic cultivation will also be revealed. If that really happens, the reputation of the human emperor will plummet, Your Highness. If we cover up this issue, the human emperor might even thank us when he finds out. The third prince paced around the room a few times, his eyes gleaming with joy as he mumbled words like, Reputation of the human emperor. Thanks to us. Benevolent human emperor unable to endure brother's death. Demonic path outweighs brotherhood. Finally, he said to Magistrate Gong. I understand this matter. The Great Zhou Dynasty, Xuanzhang Hall. Emperor Gigi of Zhou was a man with double pupils. He was tall with a delicate and handsome face, and his mere presence exuded an aura of majesty and righteousness. This wasn't an illusion, but a genuine feeling derived from the nation's fortune bestowed upon him. The national fortune of the Great Zhou Dynasty was deeply tied to the laws. The fairer the laws, the stronger the national fortune. As the recipient of the nation's fortune, Emperor Gigi would be crushed by the weight of the nation's fortune if he acted unjustly. Emperor Gigi was reviewing the petition and application to trace back time and asked. There is a nascent soul cultivator in Qingcheng suspected of practicing the demonic path. The city lord of Qingcheng might be showing favoritism, destroying evidence, and now someone needs to go to Tianqing Prefecture for time trace. Who is willing to go? The several princes and princesses remained silent. Such tasks would yield no merit if done well, but could easily lead to mistakes. Their father usually assigned 2 people, one to carry out the task and one to supervise. Now, it was merely a formality. Your Majesty, I would like to go, said the third prince, surprising the other princes and princesses. They weren't sure why he was so proactive. Was he trying to gain favor in the eyes of the emperor? In that case, the third prince will go with the fourth prince accompanying him. This matter is settled. Court is dismissed. After court had been dismissed, the third prince called out to the fourth prince. Fourth brother, come here. The fourth prince frowned. His relationship with the third prince wasn't particularly good. The two of them were both vying for the throne and had countless hidden confrontations. Many ministers in the court had already begun taking sides. Now that the third prince had called him over, the fourth prince could only think that it was related to the time trace. Third brother, what is it? Are you aware of the background of the case our father has assigned us to time trace? Isn't it just about the city lord of Qingcheng helping a nascent soul cultivator practice the demonic path? The background of that nascent soul cultivator is not simple. He's the cousin of the human emperor and the only relative of his generation. What? The fourth prince was taken aback. When he first heard the third prince mention that there was a background to this case, he didn't pay much attention to it. As for the Zhou dynasty's authority, even if the opposition was a Dao sect wanderer, they still dared to uphold the law, capture the guilty, and pass sentences. The only exception would be if the other party had a huge background that even the Zhou dynasty did not dare provoke. The identity of being the human emperor's cousin and only relative met these conditions. Moreover, if the human emperor's cousin practiced the demonic path, would the human emperor really not know? The human emperor's prowess is beyond imagination. Could he also be practicing the demonic path? In terms of the human emperor practicing the demonic path, should the Zhou dynasty intervene or not? Yikes, it's terrifying to think about it. No wonder despite having such a large background, the emperor did not raise this point in court. Once mentioned, no matter whether the human emperor's cousin cultivated the demonic path or not, the final result could only be not. The Zhou dynasty has the right to manage the human emperor, but does not have the ability to do so. The human emperor, a cultivator at the Mahayana realm, is not someone the Zhou dynasty, even with all its powers, could contend with. The fourth prince was quick-witted and swiftly reached a secret agreement with the third prince. Despite their differences, they could temporarily mend their relationship when faced with a matter that could affect the reputation and survival of the Zhou dynasty. The location of the time trace was set on the outskirts of Qingcheng. Sejong Li and Yuan Wuxing returned to Qingcheng after submitting the application. In these past few days, Yuan Wuxing had been nervous. Nascent soul cultivators and divinity transformation cultivators, who were usually rare, had been continually visiting and both directly and indirectly pressuring him to retract the application. They used reasons such as it would affect the human emperor or ruin the overall situation. As Zhang Li heard these repetitive arguments, he just yawned at them, dismissing them politely. A certain divinity transformation cultivator, who had insufficient self-restraint, was infuriated by Zhang Li's retort that he knows nothing about the human emperor. In his anger, he started a fight with Zhang Li, who gave Yuan Wuxing a demonstration of a gifted nascent soul cultivator battling an experienced divinity transformation cultivator. There was a knock on the door and a helpless Yuan Wuxing went to open it once again. Chapter 12. Emperor Zhou's Visit. Is Zhang Li here? This was the third person today to ask the same question, and Yuan Wuxing was considering putting up a sign outside the door saying, Zhang Li is not here. Yes, are you here to persuade Senior Zhang to withdraw his petition? The visitor was cloaked, his face obscured. At Yuan Wuxing's question, a glint flashed in his eyes. So many people have come looking for Zhang Li. I thought Great Zhou was open and upright, with not too many hidden schemes. Indeed, you're either the 21st or the 22nd visitor, I can't recall exactly. Take my advice and give up. You must be Yuan Wuxing, the owner of this house. You misunderstood. I am a friend of Zhang Li. When I heard he was in Great Zhou, I came to visit him. As Yuan Wuxing was about to respond, he heard Zhang Li call from inside the room. Wuxing, let him in. He's indeed my friend. With Zhang Li's words, Yuan Wuxing politely invited the cloaked man in. If I hadn't recognized your handwriting on the request, I wouldn't even know you're in Great Zhou. Why didn't you let me know? I could have welcomed you. I initially wanted to just go home to sort things out and leave. I didn't expect it to draw such a crowd. Upon taking off his cloak, he revealed a handsome face and refined features. However, the most striking were his heterochromatic eyes. Your Majesty, Yuan Wuxing couldn't help blurting out, his mind in shock. You still haven't told him who you are, Zhang Li. Emperor Gigi of Zhou cast a glance at the astonished Yuan Wuxing. No choice. He'd started off criticizing me. How could I have uncovered anything from him without changing identities? Zhang Li shrugged helplessly, changing his features slightly to reveal his true appearance. So, you aren't Dao Sect's Zhang Li, but rather the human emperor, Zhang Li. The moment Zhang Li transformed back, Yuan Wuxing's mind went blank. He gave up thinking entirely, his face flushing when he finally came to his senses. Previously, he'd insinuated to Zhang Li that the stolen baby case was supported by Zhang, the human emperor, or that human emperor Zhang was indulging his cousin to practice dark magic, or that human emperor Zhang himself was practicing dark magic. Yuan Wuxing just wanted to bury himself in a crack in the ground. Emperor Gigi of Zhou looked at Zhang Li with a smirk. Old Bai would be so thrilled to find out you are a Dao sect runner, he wouldn't be able to sleep for a year. Temporary identity, temporary identity. Zhang Li felt uncomfortable under Emperor Gigi's stare and quickly diverted the topic by bringing out the recording orb. Emperor Gigi employed a bit of mana and was able to see the orb's contents. Incidents involving the clan leader Zhang and city lord planning to destroy the evidence, clan leader Zhang and city lord conspiring with Magistrate Gong connecting with the previous Qingcheng city lords to launch relationships and get in touch with the third prince, and so on. Clan leader Zhang and others thought their actions were secret, not knowing that a pair of indifferent eyes were watching them all along, faithfully recording everything in the orb. Emperor Gigi of Zhou let out a sigh. Sorry for the trouble you've taken, brother Zhang. With these items, we can capture these people once and for all. Qingcheng's factions are intertwined and complex, it was my mistake in judgment. Zhang Yixing spread a lie about me practicing dark magic, and people believed it. They even started imagining that me not going home was because I was putting on a front and secretly practicing dark magic. They said the human emperor is the biggest dark magic leader and that faith power matters a lot to me. But not a single person thought Zhang Yixing was lying or that I really never go home. Zhang Li sighed. We strive to make the world peaceful and beautiful, yet there are always people who believe the world is dark. Emperor Gigi of Zhou also sighed. Indeed, the country's fortune and justice are closely related, yet people believe that as long as they form good connections, they can bend the law for personal gains and escape legal sanctions. Some even dare not punish people from other dynasties, thinking it's a matter of diplomacy, not under legal jurisdiction. They even believe they are considerate of my will and love the country, feeling proud of themselves. Being an emperor is indeed wearying. Zhang Li and Emperor Gigi looked at each other and sighed in unison. People like to turn a blind eye to the obvious and prefer wild speculations. Yuan Wuxing felt a twitch at the corner of his eye, seeing the two important figures sigh continually gave him a sense of their image crumbling. Although he was also part of the wild speculations. Yuan Wuxing, with such righteous cultivators like you, it's the fortune of Great Zhou. Emperor Gigi of Zhou patted Yuan Wuxing on the shoulder strongly, encouragingly. Yuan Wuxing straightened in reply, uttering an affirmation. On the outskirts of Qingcheng, near the spatial node, people were crowding. Citizens from all around Qingcheng had all rushed over, eager to see what the time reversal was really about. After all, it was a spell involving the Tao of time, extremely rare. The reason why the clan leader Zhang and others didn't react when Zhang Li applied for a time reversal was largely due to the rarity of such applications. One might not come across such a case even once every 10 years. Numerous grieving parents who'd lost their children in other cities also came over, hoping to see if their children had been stolen by Zhang Yixing. The third and fourth princes stood shoulder to shoulder in the air, their eyes half closed and hands behind their backs, clothed in imperial yellow. Clan leader Zhang and the city lord stood together, not in the least bit nervous, and even on the verge of laughter. The two princes had reached an agreement to cover up the truth together. Would they believe that Zhang Li and Yuan Wuxing could still turn the tables? Unless Emperor Zhou himself or the human emperor questioned the results, there was absolutely no possibility of overturning the situation. Even if another emperor or leader of a major sect came, it would be useless. But would Emperor Zhou and the human emperor come here? What a joke. That's very unlikely. Glancing over at Zhang Li, they noticed a cloaked figure standing next to Zhang Li and Yuan Wuxing. Sneaking around, clearly, no good person. The time has come, prepare for time reversal. The third and fourth princes opened their eyes and looked around. Countless people looked up, their gazes all focused on the two princes. They saw the two princes performing hand seals at an incredible speed, even leaving afterimages, causing amazement. As they silently recited incantations, a feeling of time standing still washed over the crowd. The people felt as if the distance between them and the princes was increasing, not spatially but temporally. The figures of the princes gradually faded until they completely disappeared, removed from this space and time. A cultivator tried to seize the opportunity to gain insight into the Tao of time, but accidentally fell into the time heart demon. If his companion had not noticed the issue and awakened him in time, he would have woken up 100 years later, while for that cultivator, it would have merely been an instant. Practitioners from the great Zhou royal family who cultivate the Tao of time must always have someone guard the law for them. The nephews are quite skilled, the speed of their sealing is quite good at this cultivation level. Zhang Li gave his opinion of the two princes. HMPH, brother Zhang, you don't need to spare my feelings. These two kids clearly are showing off more than necessary. If they had to go through so many procedures in a real fight, they'd be dead long ago. Emperor Gigi of Zhou snorted, disapproving of his two sons. Once everything is resolved, I will make them properly prepare for real combat. Yuan Wuxing stood trembling beside the two dignitaries, not daring to speak. Chapter 13, Unrequited Love. At this moment, the third prince and the fourth prince stood by the bank of the Time River, the air was thick with water vapor formed from time. Their cultivation powers were challenged to stand here. Both of them moved upstream together, facing the vast expanse of the Time River. Each droplet represented a time span from a specific region. Finding a specific droplet within the Time River was like searching for a dream in a fool's mind. Fortunately, they were in Qingchang, and their familiarity with the area lowered the difficulty of locating the droplet. Ultimately, they found the droplet from 10 days ago and saw the clan leader and the former city lord plotting to send men under the cover of night to sabotage the time-space node. They moved further upstream and found the droplet of time when Zhang Yixing sacrificed children in blood rituals. However, due to their limited mana, they could only witness events from 3 years ago. Anything before that was hard to see clearly. In these 3 years, Zhang Yixing performed blood sacrifices annually. He progressed from the late stage of the nascent soul to its peak, and the piles of bones beside the altar spoke volumes. It was clear now that Zhang Yixing practiced the demonic path and, after the event, the clan leader and the former city lord worked together to cover up the evidence. From the moment they entered the Time River, the external world's time was frozen for them. From the spectators' perspective, the two princes disappeared and reappeared instantaneously without any interval. I've looked into this matter. Zhang Yixing did not practice the demonic path, and the former city lord did not tamper with the evidence. Are you two satisfied with this conclusion? The third prince hovered in midair, looking down at Zhang Li and Yuan Wuxing. The fourth prince stood quietly beside him without uttering a word. As supervisors, their silence meant they agreed with what the third prince had said. The clan leader and others realized that the matter had been decided when the third prince spoke those words. They began to consider ways to retaliate against Zhang Li and Yuan Wuxing. The two almost brought doom upon them, torturing and then killing them wouldn't even begin to assuage their hatred. Zhang Li pointed at the trembling figure in the black robe with a carefree tone, it doesn't matter whether we are satisfied or not. But it seems like our friend here doesn't really agree with your conclusions. Seeing imminent signs of a rage storm from the figure in the black robe, Yuan Wuxing quickly hid behind Zhang Li. Seeking protection was not a shameful act. You two disgraceful fools, get down from there now. A grand and overpowering aura radiated outwards from the man in the black robe, engulfing everyone around. There were quite a few adepts of divinity transformation present, but none could discern the depth of this aura. A familiar voice resounded in the ears of the two princes. It was like a shocking thunder on a clear day, startling them to the point that they almost failed to control their spiritual energy and fell straight to the ground. Fortunately, they reacted quickly and promptly knelt before the man in the black robe. "Your son pays his respect, father." Emperor Gigi of Zhou silently lifted his hood with a sneer. "So, you finally remember me, your father." Seeing this, everyone kneeled and called out mighty praises. Yuan Wuxing hesitated for a moment before also kneeling. The kneeling clan leader and others were trembling with fear, cold sweat pouring down their backs. Why was the emperor here? Why was he standing by Zhongli's side? Why was his tone so harsh? All the signs pointed towards a situation that didn't seem favorable to them. Aside from Emperor Gigi of Zhou, the only person still standing was Zhongli. The audience were puzzled, but no one dared to speak. The third prince, feeling guilty, attempted to shift the attention of Emperor Gigi. "How audacious, Zhongli! You dare not to kneel upon meeting your father. Shut up, haven't you embarrassed yourself enough?" Emperor Gigi roared angrily. The third prince was instantly silenced. The emperor then turned to the audience and ordered, "You may rise." "What did you two see in the Time River?" Emperor Gigi asked. The third prince hesitated and said nothing. The fourth prince was slightly less fearful and replied, "Father, there are many prying eyes here. Could I report back to you later?" "There's nothing to hide. Say it all now, in front of everyone. You always beat about the bush, trying to show off your profundity. I never taught you to be like this." The fourth prince stuttered a bit, then said, "My brother and I saw Zhang Yixing practice the demonic path by performing blood sacrifices of children. The clan leader and the former city lord conspired to cover up the evidence." "Why would you lie? Do you realize that if Zhang Yixing is set free, these two will face endless retaliation, and they might not even have their corpses left?" Emperor Gigi pointed at Yuan Wuxing, who was kneeling on the ground, and Zhongli, who was watching as though it was a play, presuming that Zhongli was only at nascent soul stage. "My concern was that this incident would involve Emperor Zhongli. This could be detrimental to the empire and Emperor Zhongli himself. I opted for concealment considering the greater good." "Oh, the greater good. I had no idea your vision had surpassed mine." Emperor Gigi scoffed. "Tell me, what's this greater good that led you to risk the fate of the nation?" The fourth prince divulged all that he knew and guessed. "The emperor practicing the demonic path, that's what you inferred. Your conjecture about Emperor Zhongli's personality is completely off track." Having nothing to lose, the fourth prince asked something he usually wouldn't dare. "Father, how can you be so certain that Emperor Zhongli hasn't practiced the demonic path?" On the matter of faking a journey through time, the third prince realized that from today onward, he had no chance for the throne. He chimed in. "Zhang Yixing is the emperor's cousin. Would he dare to practice the demonic path without the emperor's permission?" "Why can I be so certain?" "Because Emperor Zhongli himself captured Zhang Yixing and handed him over for us to judge." Emperor Gigi was both amused and angered by the ridiculous statements of his two failsons. If only they'd consulted him, the truth would have been revealed. Yet, these two insistently made rash decisions in an area they knew nothing about. Emperor Zhongli has faith that Zhou is a nation ruled by law, where any crime would receive a just trial. But what have you two done? You deceived your superiors and underlings, formed cliques, and tried every trick in the book to bury this case. Do you realize that Emperor Zhongli has been watching Zhou's monkey business for 10 whole days? Emperor Gigi's final words were practically a roar. The mystical beast formed by the nation's fate shimmered in and out of sight, roaring silently. The third and fourth princes had never seen their father so enraged. Wait, Emperor Zhongli caught Zhang Yixing. The spectators suddenly realized that the emperor's words were loaded with crucial information. Brother Ji, calm down. These issues over the past few days are indeed worth retrospection, but I never took the entire affair lightly, said Zhongli as he revealed his true face, leading to an uproar amongst the onlookers. The people revered Emperor Gigi, while they respected Emperor Zhongli. The people of Qingcheng were too familiar with this face, as they would see the bronze statue of its likeness the moment they entered the city. The third prince was dumbfounded, all the arguments he prepared to refute his father were washed away. Based on Yuan Wuxing's ability, it was impossible for him to discover Zhang Yixing. The fact that Zhongli was the one who caught Zhang Yixing and delivered him to the authorities indicated that he was oblivious to this affair and has definitely not practiced the demonic path. It turned out that what they thought was covering for Emperor Zhong was just a figment of their imagination. Chapter 14. Zhong family contributes, but contributions cannot offset faults. So, you are our ancestor, Zhongli. This unworthy descendant is honored to meet you. Stunned by the sudden reappearance of Zhang Li, the clan leader of the Zhangs reflected on his previous fervent discussions about the power of faith at Yuan Wuxing's home, causing him deep embarrassment. However, he quickly collected himself, cast his shame aside, and knelt in reverence. Zhang Li only smiled without a word. Our ancestor often reminisces about their childhood spent with you, claiming it was the happiest time of their life. They said you were kind-hearted, always ready to lend a hand to the needy. Our ancestor admitted their reckless youth, often causing you trouble. Every time they thought about it, they would feel incredibly embarrassed. They wished they could apologize to you in person, but afraid they might not live long enough to see you again. You always put the world before your own kin, never prioritizing family, making it difficult to see you. Under the influence of the heart demon, our ancestor fell into the demonic path, resorting to shortcuts to extend their lifespan. The clan leader was weeping profusely, speaking earnestly, loathing himself for not being able to show Zhang Li his sincerity physically. The onlookers were deeply moved, and they concluded that Zhang Yixing's decision to practice dark magic to cope with his struggle was understandable and forgivable. It was impossible to balance public and private matters perfectly. Zhang Li, as the human emperor, had devoted himself to the people, unavoidably neglecting his own clan. It was such a pity that Zhang Yixing never got a chance to say, "I'm sorry." Yuan Wuxing wore a strange expression, finding the scene eerily familiar. As descendants of Zhang Yixing, we are also your descendants. With such a respected elder as the human emperor in our lineage, we dare not tarnish your reputation. Other than our ancestor falling into dark magic, we have not committed any wrongdoings. We've made an effort to form alliances and gather wealth, using these connections and wealth to establish and expand Qingcheng into a great city. This much is known by everyone in Qingcheng. The people of Qingcheng silently nodded. They had heard from their elders that the Zhang family's efforts were integral to Qingcheng's prosperity. Although Qingcheng was named a city in the past, it was barely recognized as one. After all, what kind of city didn't even have a single golden core cultivator? When people from other places argued with those from Qingcheng, they often referred to Qingcheng people as uncultured country folk. Today, Qingcheng has made a name for itself among the major cities throughout Tianjin Prefecture. Now, people from Qingcheng walk tall and proud everywhere. Anyone meeting them would oftentimes say, "You're from Qingcheng, impressive, we see ourselves as part of the imperial palace. We're always striving to meet the standards of the imperial palace. We just want to make sure that the Zhang family doesn't cause any embarrassment for the imperial palace and you." Ancestor Zhang Li, on behalf of the Zhang family, I would like to ask, can we become a part of the imperial palace? The clan leader looked up at Zhang Li with a hopeful gaze. Those around silently wished they could take Zhang Li's place and say, "Yes." Zhang Li nodded slightly and said lightly, "Dream on." For the 72 legendary human emperors exhibited in the imperial palace, none of them brought their clan into the palace, let alone allowed a whole clan to join the palace. How would I, Zhang Li, be so gracious as to let the Zhang family enter the imperial palace? But you're the most powerful human emperor. Nobody would say anything if you took the lead. The clan leader quickly argued. People around nodded in agreement. Indeed, as the most powerful being, Zhang Li was not arrogant or abusive. Instead, he was almost too modest. There were many cultivators at the nascent soul stage who acted more frivolously than Zhang Li himself. They broke rules and customs as they pleased, for instance, abducting the bride at a wedding, or robbing wildly after an auction, claiming these outrageous actions were the privileges of the strong. If Zhang Li wished to add the Zhang family to the imperial palace, people would probably just shrug it off and not oppose it. Someone in the crowd shouted out, "Human Emperor Zhang, please let the Zhang family join the imperial palace." These words sparked a wave of agreement, with people starting to chant. The Zhang family should join the imperial palace. Especially the people from Qingcheng, they yelled the loudest. The parents who lost their children, however, opposed, but their voices seemed too insignificant at this moment. A pair of furious parents questioned the crowd. The Zhang family practiced dark magic by consuming children. How can such a clan qualify to join the imperial palace? The queried person sneered and replied. Not to mention that the Zhang ancestor, Zhang Yixing, was a man of loyalty and righteousness, he was only temporarily misled. Look at the contributions made by the Zhang family these last 300 years. They've expanded Qingcheng, given the locals a safe home, enriched the cultural atmosphere, and brought more spiritual treasures than any other places. Many cultivators have benefited from it. Don't these merits outweigh the sins of practicing dark magic? Don't you have any sense of collective solidarity? The parents fell silent at a loss for suitable retort. Similar conversations were happening everywhere, and Zhongli heard each and every one of them. Zhongli floated 10 feet above the ground, gathering his energy to speak so that everyone could hear him. Zhongli, chuckling, said, "I heard every word you said. Well put, particularly the point suggesting, these merits could surely offset the sin of practicing dark magic. Let's not discuss the details just yet, but the argument itself seems quite reasonable." The man who had spoken earlier was initially thrilled, puffing out his chest with pride upon receiving the human emperor's praise. It would be the honor of a lifetime. But the following words from Zhongli quickly wiped out his smile. "I never thought I would hear such an argument in my lifetime. GG, perhaps we should consider introducing an intelligence tax in Zhou to enhance the national treasury." Emperor GG of Zhou nodded in agreement. "Zhang, you make a valid point. We'll put this matter on the agenda for the three lords to discuss." The man's face turned incredibly red as he defended himself. Rewards should match actions, and merits should offset demerits. What's wrong with that? Whether merits could offset demerits was a matter of contention. The man couldn't believe that Zhongli could provide a definitive answer. Yet, while others might find it challenging, this was a simple question for Zhongli. An overwhelming pressure swept over the crowd like a storm, biting cold. With a mere flicker of thought, an invisible force grasped the man's collar, pulling him to Zhongli's side. Zhongli tightened his grip on the man's throat, laughing coldly. "I've thwarted invasions by heavenly demons 3 times, saved the 9 provinces 3 times. In other words, I'm the reason you're still alive. So, it's perfectly normal for me to wipe you all out. Nobody should harbor any resentment. Let me go." The man struggled in vain. "Why should I? I've saved you 3 times. Why can't you just let me kill you in peace? Where is your sense of collective solidarity? Your death would make me happy. Don't you have any spirit of sacrifice?" Zhongli remained unmoved. His eyes held no trace of compassion, only boundless arrogance and cruelty. Let me go," the man struggled, regretting his own words terribly. The spectators were reminded of the old days when Zhongli was not known for his mercy. Before becoming the human emperor, he was renowned for creating a mountain of corpses and a sea of blood. The Sea of Blood and Mountain of Corpses, Zhang the Butcher. Chapter 15, Conversation with Zhang Yixing. Emperor Gigi of Zhou sighed in his heart, well aware of the origin of this title. At that time, a defeated extraterrestrial heavenly demon employed the body fragmentation technique and transformed into 10,000 pieces of itself, engulfing the entire city. The affected inhabitants fell into the influence of the heart demon regardless of their cultivation level. They lost their senses and bit anyone they saw. Anyone bitten became a new source of contamination, infecting others. If these people were not slain immediately, the entire region of Zhou would be mired in contamination. However, the cause and effect involved in this incident were too significant and its disclosure would tarnish their reputations. Therefore, none of the candidates for the human emperor were willing to take action. Only Zhongli unhesitatingly rushed into the crowd, killing anyone he saw without hesitation until he was too exhausted to even lift his arms. It was only then that the spread of contamination was halted. At that time, Zhongli said that a solution had not yet been found, its disclosure would only result in needless panic. He suggested it was he who had unintentionally hurt innocents during the fight against the heavenly demon. After that, no one dared to claim the candidacy for human emperor in front of Zhongli. Zhongli casually tossed away the man in his hand and spoke to the clan leader Zhang lying on the ground. "Clan leader Zhang, I understand your intention in stirring up the crowd. You think I care about public opinion and try to manipulate me by exploiting the people's views, so as to force me to permit the Zhang family to join the imperial palace. The position of the imperial palace is superior with numerous privileges. If the Zhang family joined, the case of Zhang Yixing's practice of demon cultivation would naturally fall under its jurisdiction. You, emphasizing Zhang Yixing's innocence and repentance repeatedly and reminiscing about his childhood, is nothing more than an attempt to encourage me to show leniency towards the Zhang family. Clan leader Zhang, do you really think I would care about what people think?" Zhongli no longer cared about the reaction of the clan leader Zhang or the thoughts of the public. He turned towards Emperor Gigi of Zhou and said, "Brother Ji, you handle Zhang Yixing's demon cultivation case as you see fit. There's no need to consider me. What a pity, if you had pleaded with me for leniency for the Zhang family, I would have had the opportunity to have a good fight with you." After they finished speaking, the two looked at each other and burst into laughter. Enlightened, Yuan Wuxing tossed away his feelings of fear and quietly completed the transformation of his fragmented core to a nascent soul, demonstrating it in its finest form. With Emperor Zhou and the human emperor presiding, the progress of the case was swift. Emperor Zhou even used the memory sphere in combination with the power of time tracing to capture all those involved in the case. Save for a few who were oblivious, all the Zhang family members were arrested and locked in jail, waiting for execution after the autumn session. Of those who had held the post of city lord in Qingcheng, only 2 of them were ignorant about the Zhang family's activities. The rest were arrested and sent to jail to await execution after the autumn session. Zhang Yixing was thrown into the heavenly prison and was sentenced to obliteration. Emperor Zhou used this opportunity to crack down on corruption and favoritism, leading to turbulence in the Dazhou officialdom. The heavenly prison was gloomy and damp, with the base stone of the 10-direction soul-extinguishing array immersed in it. The sparse spiritual energy and obscure spiritual connections made it impossible for the cultivators imprisoned here to break free. If one were to live here all their life, they might not even be able to draw qi into their bodies, let alone proceed with qi cultivation, foundation establishment, or core formation. Only 2 types of people were imprisoned in the heavenly prison. One was individuals with high cultivation levels, who had to be paralyzed with silver needles in the body's 8 meridians and 7 apertures to prevent them from cultivating. The other type was individuals guilty of extreme crimes whose cultivation levels were not high but were rather fierce. It was dangerous to hold them elsewhere as they could easily cause trouble. In the heavenly prison, neither of these 2 groups of people would yield to the other. The first group, being arrogant, considered all beings as minuscule and looked down upon those who rely on ferocity to commit crimes. The latter group, fearless and reckless, didn't care about your previous level of cultivation. Here in the prison, we are all just mere mortals after all. Hence, arguments and scuffles were a common sight in the heavenly prison. However, things were different today. These 2 groups were no longer arguing, but quietly meditating, not daring to cause any trouble. The mighty Zhang human emperor sits here in absolute silence, managing to subdue a group of prisoners. Zhang Yixing chuckled as he looked at Zhang Li. His old body meant that each laugh brought on a series of coughs. To the unaware, the 2 people sitting opposite each other would appear to be a grandfather and grandson, never imagining them to be cousins merely a year apart in age. Zhang Yixing had killed hundreds of infants and practiced the dark arts. A single crime would be enough to condemn him to the heavenly prison, let alone when he was guilty of them both. You should consider yourself fortunate that this is the kingdom of Zhou. Otherwise, were it another dynasty, I would have had you killed within the Zhang family's threshold, disregarding any law. Declared Zhang Li, his face cloaked in anger. Zhang Yixing scoffed. The Mahayana realm truly is extraordinary. Unlike someone of average talent like me, with neither a spiritual root nor an unending Taoist body, I had resigned myself to stagnating forever at the foundation establishment stage. Don't play the fool here. When I first started cultivating, my spiritual root was hidden, my unlimited Taoist body blocked. All I had was the worst kind of 5-element body. Otherwise, you wouldn't have dared to bully me. To have cultivated to the Mahayana realm, surviving countless life or death situations, I can't even enumerate them all myself. I never resort to oppressing the weak, yet you tread down that path, mercilessly slaughtering infants. Truly devoid of humanity. Zhang Yixing gave a cold snort, saying nothing further as his earlier words were merely voiced in anger. I only have one question. You haven't returned home in 500 years, why did you decide to come back a few days ago? Had you not come back, nobody would have discovered me. As Zhang Yixing said this, resentment surfaced on his face, wrinkles trembling with ire. Had Zhang Li not returned, he would have been able to quietly manipulate the entire Qingcheng city, flaunting his power and enjoying all its riches. Eventually, he hoped to have an opportunity to achieve divinity transformation and happily live until 1,000 years old. You be your human emperor, and I'll be my uncrowned king of Qingcheng. We would both live in peace, so why did you come back? I felt something amiss and wanted to check. I can't really articulate it. Originally, Zhang Li had intended to explain to Zhang Yixing about the system, but found it was too complex to easily convey. So he simply chose to refer to it as a premonition. The ways of the world are constant. Perhaps even the heavens could not stand my behavior, so they sent you to punish me. Zhang Yixing muttered, not surprised by the answer. This response was what Zhang Yixing had anticipated. But because Zhang Li did not confirm it, he couldn't ascertain for sure, always feeling a stifling stone in his chest. Now with Zhang Li providing an answer, the heavy stone was lifted, transforming Zhang Yixing from despondency to brightness, seemingly prepared for the inevitability of death. I've asked my question. Now it's your turn. You knew I had a question. Zhang Li expressed his surprise. Nothing ventured, nothing gained. If only you were here to send me off, I would gladly thank you. Not mincing any words, Zhongli directly asked. Where did you learn the ritual of blood sacrifice of infants, and how did you find out that belief power could neutralize the resentment of infants? Zhang Yixing stared at the damp cell ceiling in silence, seemingly lost in thought or trying to gather his words. It was probably around 380 years ago. A man dressed in black appeared before me, and with a mere gesture, elevated me from Foundation establishment to Golden Core. At that time, my life was nearing its end, trapped in the intermediate stage of Foundation establishment with death looming. The power the black-clothed man bestowed got me an additional 100 years of life, for which I gratefully thanked him. He then disclosed to me the method of blood sacrifice of infants. Having just cheated death, no one could desire life more than I. The idea of the blood sacrifice spell was deeply enticing. However, I was apprehensive that the resentment of the infants would expose my practice of the dark arts. The man in black, seeing my hesitation, assured me that belief power could eradicate resentment. Then, he vanished into thin air and I've never seen him since. Zhang Li brooded. If he relied on belief power himself, once Zhang Yixing's deeds became public knowledge, the fallout for him would be significant. Was this a plot against him? Or simply a ploy to spread the dark arts? But 380 years ago, he was just a candidate for the human emperor. Could this black-clothed man have left a trap for all the candidates for the human emperor? As the thoughts circulated through his mind, Zhang Li vanished, sailing off to an unknown destination. Zhang Yixing gazed at the blue sky and flying birds outside his window bars, tears flowing down his anguished face. Even though he had prepared himself for it, in the end, he was still afraid of death. Chapter 16. The beautiful women are going to fight. Zhang Li floated above Qingcheng, his hands clasped behind his head, mulling over Zhang Yixing's words. If only the old Ji could trace back to 380 years ago. Sadly, even if his lifespan is exhausted, he can't trace that far back. Thinking about this, Zhang Li curled his lips. Old Ji was good at everything. As an emperor, he was diligent, loved the people, was just, revered the law, and as a friend, he was loyal. But as a cultivator, he was reluctant to practice, wasting the talent of having double pupils. You should know that having double pupils was a symbol only the founding emperor, Emperor Shun, had, most suited for cultivating the Tao of Time. It's said that Emperor Shun was originally a fish in the river of time, who, by some serendipity, leapt out of the river and transformed into a human form in Kyushu, thus founding the Great Zhou that lasted for 10,000 years. Therefore, the descendants of Great Zhou are naturally close to the Tao of Time. Zhang Li also learned the Tao of Time and found that it purely relied on enlightenment, something he couldn't learn. That's why, Comrade Ji, you need to practice hard. Zhang Li murmured to himself. He pulled out a long, narrow yellow paper, with ancient characters drawn on it with cinnabar. This was the remote communication talisman written by Tao sect. As long as you're in Kyushu, no matter the distance, you can make contact. Regrettably, the production of the remote communication talisman was difficult. It required the Taoist sect elder to invest months of painstaking labor to write it. Hence, even the Tao sect itself didn't have enough to use, let alone sell to others. As he had a good relationship with the imperial palace, Zhang Li only had a few papers on hand. He kept one for himself and sent the rest to the leader of the imperial palace. Calling the commanding officer of the imperial palace, Zhang Konggu. The remote communication talisman flickered slightly, connecting with the other side, and soon a burly figure shadow occupied half of Zhang Li's vision. Brother Zhang, I was just thinking about contacting you, something major has happened. Zhang Konggu's big face was close to Zhang Li, who instinctively slapped it away, and the shadow quickly reformed into Zhang Konggu's figure. Zhang Konggu was a sturdy man with a somewhat dark complexion. His two robust flower arms seemed to support the heavens, his strength comparable to that of transformed beasts like black bears, wild pigs, elephants, etc. Born from a witch clan, he had profound knowledge in body cultivation. It is said that he secretly helped in the writing of the Strength of the Human Emperor Zhang Li, by the Dragon Kings of the Four Seas. However, this strong man now looked quite miserable. His face was marred by vivid purple bruises, and his arms, calves, etc., any place exposed was also bruised. Judging by his posture, he probably had several broken bones. Zhang Li was taken aback. He knew how extraordinary Zhang Konggu's physique was. This was a tough guy who could stand up to Transcendence Tribulation stage with just his physical body. In Kyushu, the number of people who could hurt him like this could be counted on two hands. He tentatively asked, "Did you quarrel with your wife again?" "No. Was there an invasion by a heavenly demon?" No, were you asking Mount Sumeru's old Buddha to eat pork-stewed noodles? No, then, Brother Zhang, stop guessing. You only ever won the 4th prize in a lottery. I don't need to say more about your luck. Oh, go on then. A beautiful girl is about to start fighting. Zhang Li was confused. How is this a major event? A few years ago, Dream River Emperor brought a concubine into his golden house and didn't let outsiders see her. He himself didn't attend to state affairs and stayed in the golden house. You know all this, Brother Zhang. Zhang Li did indeed heard about it. The Dream River Emperor was sunk in his lust for beauty and ignored state affairs, resulting in chaos in the Dream River dynasty's court, with the ordinary people's livelihood in ruins. However, this is quite common. After all, some emperors are so absorbed in their cultivation that they isolate themselves for decades, which is even worse than the Dream River Emperor. This situation is not within the jurisdiction of the imperial palace. If the imperial palace intervened every time an emperor was neglectful of politics, then their scope would be too broad, and they might as well just unify Kyushu. Therefore, Zhang Li only had a rough impression of this matter and did not pay much attention. It is said that the Dream River Emperor did not engage in marital affairs with that concubine but merely watched her. Emperor Wei of the Great Wei dynasty was very close to the Dream River Emperor. After he emerged from seclusion, he went to the Golden House to see the Dream River Emperor and see how beautiful this new concubine was to make the Dream River Emperor so engaged. The Dream River Emperor granted his request. But who could have thought that a casual look would lead to trouble? Everyone knows that Emperor Wei is fond of beauties, but I could never have imagined Emperor Wei actually asked the Dream River Emperor to give his concubine to him. He even offered the Dream River Emperor to pick any spirit stone, cultivation technique, or land as an exchange. Naturally, the Dream River Emperor was unwilling. The two of them started quarreling and eventually even started fighting, collapsing half of the Dream River Emperor's palace. And that's not even the end of it. Emperor Wei still wanted that concubine, and the Dream River Emperor said it was impossible. Emperor Wei challenged him to settle it on the battlefield. Dream River Emperor agreed. In the end, they both decided to fight to the death on the battlefield. So this is what you meant by, a beautiful girl is about to start fighting. You've summarized it pretty well, giving both the reasons and the results. Zhang Li considered whether to pay for a private teacher for Zhang Konggu out of his own pocket. But if two empires were about to go to war, it was indeed a big deal. Especially since both emperors would conduct personal expeditions, which was an extraordinary event, and they would definitely lead armies of 1 million or even more. And this million-strong army was not like the ancient mundane army of millions in Zhang Li's previous life, where they declared victory after battling without affecting the innocent. This was an army composed of 1 million chi cultivators, tens of thousands of foundation establishment cultivators, and thousands of golden core stage cultivators. As for those who achieve the nascent soul or higher, there probably won't be few. According to Zhang Li's estimate, a fully charged chi attack from a 6th level chi cultivator would be comparable to a bullet. A golden core stage's burst of power could be on par with a battle axe missile. In other words, if this million-strong army starts fighting, it would be equivalent to World War II in his previous world. The scope of the battlefield purely depends on how they perform in the field. It is very likely that they could reach the territories of other empires or sects. The chain reaction might even result in a Kyushu-wide war. Not to mention that this 1 million-strong army could form large array formations, which even Transcendence Tribulation old freaks would have to avoid. The only one who dared to assure that a single person could beat a million-strong army might be Zhang Li alone. Zhang Li had already made up his mind in his heart. If he could, he would mediate, and if he couldn't, he would have to force peace through force. He hoped that Emperor Wei and the Dream River Emperor could understand. Thinking of this, Zhang Li felt slightly at ease. If it was switched to any other human emperor, they would have been worried for a while. They did not have the confidence to defeat the armies of two dynasties. However, Zhang Li, as the strongest human emperor and currently the only Mahayana realm cultivator in Kyushu, preventing a war between two empires was not a difficult task. The difficulty lies in how much effort he would have to exert. Then, how did you get this injury? Who hit you? This is the problem, Brother Zhang. As you know, one of our duties as officers of the Imperial Palace is to maintain the overall stability of Kyushu. After knowing about the dual agreement between Emperor Wei and the Dream River Emperor, I immediately rushed to the Dream River Emperor to mediate, but to my surprise, when I saw that concubine, my soul was entirely captivated by her. She was genuinely beautiful, exquisite as a heavenly immortal. No, even the fairies are not as beautiful as her. At that moment, I wanted to snatch that concubine. My body almost lost control. In my desperation, I had no other choice but to beat myself up, using the pain to sober up. Chapter 17. The Golden House Conceals the Beauty. Back then, I was so tempted to seize the Empress myself. My body almost lost control, he confessed. In a sudden rush, I had no other option but to beat myself up until the pain forced me to wake up, he continued. Zhang Li's smile faded, replaced by a solemn expression. When he had heard of the feud between Emperor Wei and the monarch of the Dream River dynasty over a consort, he hadn't thought much of it. As far as he was concerned, any credibility these two had was enhanced by a lack of strong alternatives in their royal families. Despite being far from perfect, they could be seen as the best among the worst. They were nowhere near as competent as Emperor Zhou. It wouldn't be surprising if their lust caused national crisis. But Zhang Konggu was different. As the leader of the imperial palace, irrespective of cultivation level, his temperament was top tier. For a rough man like him to be so infatuated with a consort, something was definitely amiss. I've been informed. How many days do we have until the previously agreed day of the war? He asked. Zhang Konggu's face stiffened. Originally, they had agreed to settle it at the riverside of the Earth Mother River in a month. But their quarrels have escalated, moving the battle date to 25 days from now. He paused slightly, tilting his head as if he had heard something. Ah, they've just moved it forward again to 20 days from now for a fight till death. Zhang Li was stunned. Not only had the date been brought forward, but the nature of the contest had also escalated to a fight till the death. His initial plan involved asking Zhang Konggu to contact those who were previously human emperor candidates. They could then check their circles for sightings of the man in black. But now, he decided to delegate the task to others while he dealt with the situation in the Dream River dynasty firsthand. The mission from the system could be put on hold for the moment. I will head there right away. Zhang Li left these words behind and immediately disconnected all contact with Zhang Konggu. On his way to the Dream River dynasty, he got in touch with one of the other leaders, asking them to alert the previous human emperor candidates. The palace of the Dream River dynasty was in ruins. Its state of demise bore testimony to the fight between Emperor Wei and the monarch of the Dream River dynasty. If it weren't for Zhang Konggu's timely intervention to save lives, who knows how many casualties there would have been. Amongst the wreckage, only the shimmering golden house, which was left untouched, claimed onlookers' attention. Evidently, it was deliberately spared during the fight. Zhang Konggu could hear the escalating argument from within the golden house, predicting that before Zhang Li even arrives, the day of the war could be moved forward by another 10 days. Conflict regarding the lives and deaths of millions of people should not be treated so frivolously. He gritted his teeth, decided to persuade the two emperors to reconsider their actions, smacked his face a few times, and bravely walked into the golden house. Listen to my advice. Stop quarreling. You both are rulers of nations. You can't risk the prosperity of your nations over an attractive woman. Let me take responsibility for her. Thanks to Zhang Li's speed, he was able to cross half of the state of Kyushu in just half a day, traveling from the east of the dynasty to the west of the Dream River dynasty. His speed was astonishingly quick. Without even reaching the capital city of the Dream River dynasty, Zhang Li could already hear a thunderous noise in the distance. From afar, the figures of 3 people could be seen fighting in midair over the capital city. It was Zhang Konggu, caught in combat with the rulers of the Dream River dynasty and Emperor Wei. Neither Emperor Wei nor the monarch of the Dream River dynasty were particularly gifted when it came to their path of cultivation. They were merely at the nascent soul stage. Under the combined national destinies, they could fight Zhang Konggu evenly, even showing signs of superiority. If not for Zhang Konggu's abundant combat experience, they would have defeated him by now. This was all due to the fact that Emperor Wei was too far from the Great Wei and the effect of the national destinies was not at its peak. Zhang Konggu was fighting passionately. His bloodline was activated to the extreme, causing the tattoos of the 12 ancestral witches on his back to emit a faint light. The power of this ineffable aura was overwhelming. In the sky, the star was shining, casting a glittering light on the monarch of Dream River dynasty. Each of his punches was as mighty as a falling meteor, causing severe pain to Zhang Konggu. Emperor Wei was holding the imperial jade seal. The 8 characters, given a mandate by heaven, enjoying prosperity and long life, which transpired in the sky seemed like a heavenly decree, capable of changing the natural elements. Only the strong deserve a beauty. Zhang Konggu roared. Get lost, you big oaf. Emperor Wei bellowed. This is the Dream River dynasty, you should obey my commands. The monarch of the Dream River dynasty refused to back down. Enough. All of you, calm down. In a split second, Zhang Li arrived above the trio. He used his palm to send these 3 senseless characters crashing into the ground. The glow of the ancient 12 ancestral witches' tattoos faded away. The stars in the sky were concealed and the 8 characters, given a mandate by heaven, enjoying prosperity and long life, were erased. The 3 characters, who had been spent from the struggle, took quite a while to crawl out of the pit that had been created by their impact. Brother Zhang, that was a harsh blow. You almost shattered my bones. Zhang Konggu managed a grin. Zhang Li's slap had knocked some sense into him. Zhang Li berated him without mercy. Thankfully, you were sensible enough to fight in the air instead of the capital city. If you had dared to fight in the city, I would have sent you straight to the underworld with a single slap. Zhang Konggu dared not say anything and simply chuckled foolishly. No matter what he said, it would be wrong. Although he had always considered himself to be the topmost warrior, he also knew against whom he stood a chance. Facing Zhang Li, he did not dare propose a duel. One slap from Zhang Li was enough to strip him of the vigor of his prided 12 ancestral witches' tattoos, rendering him confused and disoriented. Emperor Zhang. Emperor Zhang. Despite the heavy slap from Zhang Li, both the monarch of the Dream River dynasty and Emperor Wei got up and greeted Zhang Li with a respectful salute. Zhang Li returned the gesture politely. May I meet the fair maiden? Emperor Zhang, please. There was no way that the monarch of the Dream River dynasty could resist a request from Zhang Li. The palace was reduced to rubble and a path was barely discernible amidst the wreckage. They hovered 3 feet above the ground and flew towards the Golden House. The monarch of the Dream River dynasty, upon seeing the ruins of his own palace and recalling his part in the destruction, sighed. My, was I led astray by beauty. For such a beauty, I wouldn't mind rebuilding the palace even if it means destroying it 10 more times, Emperor Wei refuted with a shake of his head. Tyrant, foolish ruler. The 2 rulers started arguing once again, showing signs of another imminent fight. Zhang Li coughed lightly to remind them and they quickly composed themselves. The richness of the Golden House was unlike anything Zhang Li had seen before. The outsides were layered with golden bricks of meritorious deeds while premium spirit stones lined the floors. Dozens of spiritual treasures were used as wall decor. A golden fountain sprayed in the center with a green lotus taking root. Zhang Li was of the view that the monarch of the Dream River dynasty had virtually emptied his treasury to build the Golden House. The lengths that men would go for beauty, truly. The beautiful maiden lay asleep on the golden bed, her petite body curled slightly. Her lips slightly parted as if she was a sleeping kitten, endearingly adorable. Upon sighting the maiden with exquisite facial features that transcended mortal beauty, Zhang Li found himself slightly moved. Her delicate neck and lithe figure were enchantingly alluring. Her small and delicate feet were something one would want to play with. He had seen her before. Or to be precise, he had seen her portrait. That portrait, drawn with common paper and ink, had been declared a prohibited item solely because the subject was this woman. A woman who was supposed to be dead. Chapter 18. Red Dust Pure Land. The beauty often sleeps. I brought her to the Golden House 3 years ago and she's been sleeping ever since, rarely waking up. Even if there's a large commotion outside, she'll not be disturbed. Dream River Emperor explained, otherwise, they wouldn't dare to make such a big fuss, similar to experiencing a heavenly tribulation. None of you are allowed to look, the beauty is mine. Dream River Emperor could not control himself, but was pulled out of the Golden House by Zhang Li, bringing him back to his senses. Seeing this, Emperor Wei and Zhang Konggu hurriedly left the Golden House too. They almost lost their control just like Dream River Emperor. Where did you find this person? During the original West Hunt, I alone came across this beauty sleeping under an old tree deep within the forest. I felt that my mortal body was unworthy of touching the beauty, so I used the void traction to bring her back to the palace, built the Golden House, and lodged her inside. Didn't you feel anything when you saw the beauty, Emperor Zhang? Quote. Feelings. Quite beautiful. That's it, Emperor Wei asked. She's the most beautiful woman I've ever seen. That's it, Zhang Konggu asked. Yes. Don't you feel a desire to possess and admire her? No, it seems Emperor Zhang has an extraordinary character. All 3 of them could only make such a comment. This woman has great significance. I need to make a trip to the Red Dust Pure Land to confirm some things. I hope you 2 monarchs can guard your hearts, don't be blinded by beauty, and Konghu, keep an eye on the door of the Golden House for me. Don't let anyone enter before I come back. After giving instructions, Zhang Li still felt uneasy and broke a jade piece to deploy a large protective array. Perhaps because he put all his bestowed talents into fighting and cultivation, Zhang Li knew nothing about formations, alchemy, and artifact refining. Now, all his formation deployments relied on jade slips given to him by the sect master of the Dao sect. He had tried learning these things many times, but after many attempts, he utterly gave up any hope of mastering such skills in cultivation. Now, Zhongli just hopes that he can ascend to the immortal realm after all, as it's said that after becoming a roaming heavenly immortal, one can grasp all kinds of skills. Maybe by then, he'd be able to learn 1 or 2 of the 100 cultivation skills. I hope this system can really help me ascend. In the west of Jojo, 2 significant sects caught the most attention, one being the compassionate Buddhist sect, the other being the Red Dust Pure Land, consisting only of women. The Buddhist sect was well known for accumulating virtue and merit through good deeds for a better afterlife, while the Red Dust Pure Land was almost hidden to the world, with very few leaving, and people only hearing about it without seeing it. Thus, there were many rumors about it, but they are hardly reliable. There were rumors that the women in Red Dust Pure Land saw clothes as filth and thus, went naked. Zhongli knew this wasn't true. It was said that the disciples of the Red Dust Pure Land must marry any man who touched them. Zhongli knew this wasn't true. They said that the disciples of the Red Dust Pure Land were peaceful and never showed anger. Zhongli knew this wasn't true. They said the founder of Red Dust Pure Land was the most beautiful woman ever, even causing the Buddha to waver. Zhongli knew this was true. Zhongli stood outside the sect protection array, loudly announcing. Zhongli pays his respects to Red Dust Pure Land, please forgive my impromptu visit. Since it is an uninvited visit, we won't entertain. A familiar voice, filled with an undisguised sense of disgust, came from within the formation. It was from the leader of Red Dust Pure Land, the Taoist of Clear Day Israel. Zhongli knew the reason behind her aversion. Clear Desire Taoist fell in love with a Buddha's child from Mount Sumeru, but he had malicious intentions and was slain by Zhongli. Although Clear Desire Taoist later found love in another Buddha's child, she still held on to the grudge against Zhongli for her previous lover's death. Later, there was a vital tree in Red Dust Pure Land on the brink of death, so they put a bounty to the world, stating that anyone who could bring it back to life could choose one item from their treasury. Zhongli revived the tree and went to claim his treasures. Clear Desire Taoist did honor the agreement and allowed Zhongli to choose from the treasury, but her words were often full of sarcasm. Annoyed, Zhongli decided to take the keys to the treasury instead, causing the disciples of Red Dust Pure Land to descend the mountain and find ways to make money, creating many poignant love stories. It was only after 10 years that Zhongli returned the key. Master, Zhongli, Emperor Zhong has come to visit, we can't just ignore him. Another familiar voice came from inside the formation, clear and pleasant to the ears. The sect protection array opened, and Zhongli saw 2 Taoist nuns dressed in white robes standing at the gate of the mountain. Both were extraordinarily beautiful, one with a look of disgust on her face, often radiantly smiling. The latter, the saint of Red Dust Pure Land, Pure Heart Saint. Her cultivation and prestige in the sect had already surpassed her master, Clear Desire Taoist. She had once secretly told Zhongli that the only reason she was reluctant to take the position of the sect leader was due to one reason. The term Taoist pure heart didn't sound good to her. Emperor Zhong is as charismatic as ever, carefree in content. Pure Heart admires that. Pure Heart Saint greeted Zhongli with a radiant smile, contrasting with her usual unfriendly demeanor. Taoist Clear Desire was thinking to herself, when has Zhongli ever come to visit without a motive? Yet you're saying carefree in content, he must certainly want something. After so many years of not seeing each other, Pure Heart Saint remains so gentle, much better compared to a certain rude Taoist. Pure Heart Saint laughed while covering her mouth, causing the veins on Clear Desire Taoist's forehead to bulge. She quickly reassured herself, you can't beat him, you can't beat him. The reason for my visit today is to seek counsel. Zhongli stopped joking and spoke seriously. Please, Emperor Zhong, let's continue our conversation up the mountain. Pure Heart Saint invited Zhongli into Red Dust Pure Land. After getting up the mountain, Zhongli shared the situation of discovering the beautiful woman in the Dream River dynasty. Pure Heart Saint and Clear Desire Taoist realized the seriousness of the matter. I suspect that it's your sect's founder. She has resurrected. Zhongli finally voiced his suspicion. Zhongli had never seen the founder of Red Dust Pure Land but had witnessed her true face in the treasury. At that time, he was so amazed that it left him with a deep impression. In JoJo, there's the concept of reincarnation, but resurrection of the dead was unheard of. Zhongli's words were sincerely against common sense. However, Pure Heart Saint and Clear Desire Taoist didn't immediately refute. They were rather acknowledging Zhongli's words. After all, their founder couldn't be explained by ordinary laws. When the stairway to immortality was not yet severed, an immortal descended and resided in JoJo without returning to the immortal realm. This immortal maiden was beautiful like a saint, with a charm that outshone everything else. Not just men, but even women at the Transcendence Tribulation stage, couldn't resist her charms. According to the immortal maiden, her beauty made many prominent figures in the immortal realm smitten and wanting to possess her. Not wanting to be caught in the violence, she had to flee to Jojo. The situation in Jojo was no better than the immortal realm. Wherever this immortal maiden went, disputes would arise. But unlike in the immortal realm, as an immortal, she was basically invincible in Jojo. Even if a dispute arose because of her, it's quickly suppressed. When Active Stone of Tao sect heard about such a woman, he personally went to see her, and after seeing her, he praised that this woman was, in fact, the embodiment of the beauty of the heavenly Tao. Who could resist the charms of the heavenly Tao? Initially, people thought Active Stone of Tao sect was describing the beauty of the immortal, but after witnessing her charm that surpasses age, gender, and species, it was discovered that Active Stone of Tao sect was speaking the literal truth. This woman is the embodiment of the beauty of the heavenly Tao. The immortal maiden opened up the Red Dust Pure Land in the west and called herself Red Dust Immortal. Chapter 19. Human Emperor of Zhong, Come to Fight. After the Red Dust Fairy secluded herself in the Pure Land of Red Dust, she was no longer seen by people. But her appearance was recorded by a painter, and her portraits were also fought over by many people. In the end, under the proposal of knowledgeable individuals, all portraits of the Red Dust Fairy were destroyed. Nowadays, probably only the treasury of Pure Land of Red Dust would contain portraits of the founding master. Although Zhong Li admired the beauty of the Red Dust Fairy, he did not lose his composure. This couldn't simply be explained by his deep cultivation, and he didn't fully understand the reason himself. Being an outsider, it's inappropriate for me to observe the remnants of your late ancestor. I suggest both of you go to the tomb to check if her immortal body is still there. However, from the moment you revived the immortal tree, you became a benefactor of our Pure Land of Red Dust. How can a benefactor be considered an outsider? Unable to refute the saint's pure heart, Zhong Li arrived at the place where the immortal's body was kept. The burial chamber of the Red Dust Fairy was very simple, without any decoration. The empty room only contained a crystal as tall as a person in the center. The crystal was empty, the immortal was no longer there. In order to prevent her body from being taken away, the founding master left a seal on the crystal that only she could release. She surely resurrected and left of her own accord. Saint's pure heart quickly made a judgment. Right now, we don't know the state of the founding master, whether she fully regained her memory or is just acting on instinct. Indeed, the woman in the golden house is your founding master. Though he had his suspicions, Zhong Li was still slightly surprised to see an actual resurrection before his eyes. Pure heart, you and Zhong the human emperor should go and check the situation at the Dream River Dynasty right away. The Taoist nun Qingyu immediately spoke up. She knew this was what Saint's pure heart was thinking, but she couldn't always let Saint's pure heart make decisions, otherwise, where would her own authority as head of the sect stand? The Dream River Dynasty is adjacent to the Pure Land of Red Dust, hence it was the Dream River Emperor who found the fairy when she descended from her mountain dwelling. The two of them soon saw a woman in a red dress sleeping in the golden house. It's really the fairy of Red Dust. Upon meeting, Saint's pure heart immediately felt a blood-tied sense of intimacy with the woman in the red dress. Few could resist the charm of the Red Dust Fairy. There are many beautiful women in the Pure Land of Red Dust, all ageless. This was due to two sources of disciples. Firstly, the teaching master would travel and recruit women they liked. Secondly, there was an immortal peach tree in the Pure Land of Red Dust. Eating the peaches could impregnate women, and the newborn babies would naturally become disciples of the Pure Land of Red Dust. The Red Dust Fairy had consumed a peach. Saint's pure heart naturally belonged to the latter category. The beauty of the founding master is truly beyond comparison for us ordinary beings. Although Saint's pure heart was confident in her own beauty, she didn't arrogantly think she could match the unparalleled Red Dust Fairy. At most, she considered herself a beauty that appeared only once every 5,000 years. But why does the founding master keep sleeping? When will she wake up? Perhaps Emperor Dream River knows the answer. Here's what happened. This woman is the founding master of Pure Land of Red Dust. It's not known whether she resurrected from death or whether her body birthed a new spirit. She's in a constant sleep now, probably not yet used to the transition from death to life. Do you know how to wake her up? Although there isn't a recorded instance of resurrection in Kyushu, there are records left by immortals about such situations. There could be two cases for resurrection: either the soul escapes the underworld to return, or the original soul disappears and the body generates a new consciousness. However, the latter isn't resurrection in the true sense, it's more like a new birth. Emperor Dream River and others were a bit slow on the uptake, and it took them a while to fully comprehend Zhongli's explanation. Zhong the human emperor, you joke. Since bringing her to the Golden House, even touching her has felt like a desecration, dare I try to wake her up? Sometimes she wakes once several months past, other times she wakes after just a few days. I can't discern any pattern. Zhongli nodded. Emperor Dream River's response was as expected, so he said. The matter of the red dust fairy is of great importance. Keeping her here will only cause trouble. Moreover, she is the founding master of the pure land of red dust. After discussing with Saintess Pure Heart, both sentimentally and reasonably, we should return her to pure land of red dust. What do you think? Upon hearing this, Emperor Dream River immediately objected. Of course not. The red dust fairy has been sleeping here for 3 years. She is used to it here. You cannot take her away. Even though he knew the red dust fairy had a distinguished status and an astonishing background, he was not willing to let such a beauty be taken away right before his eyes. Because once she leaves, he might never see her again. I understand your rules. When you can't reach a decision, the strongest fist rules and the weak suffer. So be it. I, Emperor Dream River, will have a few bouts with you. Zhongli did not expect these two monarchs to be reasonable. Wasn't a fight the most straightforward thing? Then, I beg your pardon. Emperor Dream River said in a grave voice, full of strength. Count me in. Emperor Wei also stepped forward, standing shoulder to shoulder with Emperor Dream River in a show of strength. He didn't want Zhongli to take the red dust fairy either. How does it matter if she is the founding master of the pure land of red dust? It is just one of the 6 great sects. Their 2 great dynasties also bore immortals. Their foundation is not worse than that of the pure land of red dust. Are they, as monarchs, not worthy of the red dust fairy? They will not accept this. The human emperor, so what? We are all emperors. Your status is not higher than ours. You say you will take her away, and you just take her. So what if the imperial palace is revered by all of Kyushu? We, the 2 great dynasties, will not honor that this time. Upon seeing this, Zhang Konggu promptly withdrew to a safe distance, to avoid getting caught in the crossfire. Unlike these 2 inflated idiots, he had seen Zhongli in action before. Zhongli had butchered the heavenly demons that they had barely killed at the cost of heavy casualties, like chopping vegetables. The power of the Mahayana realm is truly unfathomable. Emperor Dream River wore a luxurious royal robe, a Pingtian crown on his head, and held the Star Han gold rod in his hand. He pointed to the sky, and the galaxies hidden by the sunlight reappeared. Tiny stars full of endless stellar power converged on the Star Han gold rod. Emperor Dream River's aura grew increasingly strong, like an emperor holding a galaxy. The national destiny of the Dream River dynasty, stars brilliant. Emperor Dream River released his repression on the national destiny of the Great Wei dynasty, allowing the Wei's national destiny to come here too. Emperor Wei did not show any signs of weakness. He wore a royal robe decorated with a pattern of turtles and snakes and held the imperial jade seal in his hand. The 8 seal script characters. Receive the mandate of heaven, long live, long live, shone brightly. They gradually distorted and transformed into a Xuanwu pattern while North Ren water, heavy as mountains, circled Emperor Wei, making him seem like a great ancient deity in command of the skies. The national destiny of the Great Wei dynasty, water god Xuanwu. Zhong the human emperor, come and fight. Both monarchs attacked in unison. At this point, they were clear-headed and used every method to arm themselves. They were much stronger than when they fought Zhang Konggu. 3 breaths later, Emperor Dream River, on the brink of death, screamed. Imperial physician, I need the imperial physician. Chapter 20. Ways to make a man take the initiative. Although it was already autumn outside, filled with a solemn and desolate vibe, in the pure heart holy land, the air was brimming with birdsong and perfume of flowers. The grass was thick and green, and tender peach blossom petals fell like a curtain, creating a colorful display over Qingcheng Taoist Nun's head. Qingcheng Taoist Nun, with her cold and beautiful face, seemed somewhat melancholic, letting the peach blossom petals fall on her head. She gazed quietly towards Master Hongchen's holy cave in the distance, feeling somewhat abandoned. 3 people were present in the holy cave. Red Dust Master, her own apprentice, and that person who should have been her. Why had it become Zhongli? Qingcheng Taoist Nun hung her head in desolation, helpless. After all, she was not directly descended from Red Dust Master. She was simply brought back to the mountain by her predecessor leader when she was at the age of blooming youth, unable to resist the charm of Red Dust Master. Having originally disbelieved it, She met Red Dust Master with an excited heart, looking at his sleeping face. Soon, her excited heart turned into a desire to possess, only to be evicted by the Pure Heart Saintess and Zhongli themselves. Granted, their means were a bit brutal. Cursed it, why did Zhongli face no repercussions, and here she was, the leader, feeling like an outsider. Inside the holy cave, unaware if it was due to the change in environment or simply due to the right moment, Red Dust Fairy gradually came back to her senses. She opened her eyes, her distinct black and white irises gazing at the two people present. The moment she opened her eyes, Zhongli felt the whole cave was shining brightly, making him temporarily dazzled. Appearing utterly confused, Red Dust Fairy softly inquired. "Who are you? Where is that silly man who was just giggling over there?" 30th generation direct disciple, Pure Heart Saintess, pays her respects to our ancestor. Pure Heart Saintess gave a deep bow to Red Dust Fairy. The 73rd human emperor pays his respects to Red Dust Fairy. "You are my descendants. Who am I then? What is a human emperor?" Red Dust Fairy looked confused, not understanding the actions of Pure Heart Saintess and Zhongli. Pure Heart Saintess asked, "I wonder, Master, how many past acquaintances do you remember?" With a baffled face, Red Dust Fairy said, "I only remember that I woke up from a massive crystal. It seemed as if something was binding me outside the crystal. After I broke free from the bindings, I went down the mountain and kept walking east. I crossed 2 small towns and came to a forest. The more I walked, the more tired I became, so I finally found a big tree and slept. When I woke up, I found myself in a golden house. There was a man stupidly staring at me. When I asked him a question, he wouldn't answer and would only idiotically giggle. I found it boring and fell asleep again. This cycle repeated a few times until you two appeared." It seemed that Red Dust Fairy was not capable of speaking so much in a stretch, as she paused several times. "Do you remember anything from the immortal realm? Or perhaps your descent to Earth?" Red Dust Fairy gently shook her head. Pure Heart Saintess and Zhongli glanced at each other. After reviving, Red Dust Fairy lost her memory, or rather, she did not retain her previous memory before being revived. Zhongli frowned slightly, feeling that there was something wrong with Red Dust Fairy's account. Using his spiritual power, he created a 3-dimensional map of Pure Heart Holy Land and showed it to Red Dust Fairy. "This is where you woke up, then you followed this direction to walk, right?" Red Dust Fairy nodded her head. "Then you passed these 2 small towns and finally arrived at the forest." Red Dust Fairy nodded her head. "You traveled during the day, right?" Red Dust Fairy nodded her head. The two of them chatted with Red Dust Fairy for a while, told her about her past as accounted in ancient books, as well as the current situation of the 9 provinces. Seeing she was tired and wanted to rest, they set her up comfortably and left the cave. "Is there a problem? I'm not sure what specifically is the issue, but there definitely is one." Zhongli frowned as he spoke. "Ever since I tried to take the key to your treasury, your side didn't even have the money to buy spiritual grains and had no choice but to go down the mountain to find ways to earn spirit stones. Although, seeing it was for my sake, I returned the key, but you also learned your lesson and brought some mortals here from the Dream River Dynasty, so they could settle down here, right? All the people in 9 provinces could cultivate, but within 9 provinces, the term mortal referred to cultivators who were stuck in the chi cultivation stage their entire lives. Upon seeing it was for my sake, I returned the key." Pure Heart Saintess blushed slightly but still nodded. "These mortals built cities, planted spiritual grains, and offered them to us every year. The problem lies here. Red Dust Fairy passed through 2 small towns in broad daylight. With her beauty, how could the townsfolk not have noticed? But you did not receive such information, which led to your ancestor being lost for 3 years without anyone knowing." Zhongli was only halfway through when Pure Heart Saintess understood. That was right. Considering the secluded location of the ancestor's tomb, it was reasonable that nobody noticed when the ancestor left the mountain. However, it was unreasonable for her to pass 2 bustling towns in broad daylight without anyone noticing. That's not possible. Each town has a golden core stage sister stationed in it, and the spiritual grains provided by those 2 towns each year is top quality. How could they have experienced an issue? Zhongli glanced at Pure Heart Saintess with a hint of scorn for her intelligence. "You're denying the problem instead of resolving it." Having said that, he turned into a stream of light and flew towards the 2 small towns. Pure Heart Saintess stomped her foot in anger. From her storage ring, she took out a book and threw it onto the ground angrily. It was said that men preferred slightly silly girls. This ridiculous book was utterly useless. And to think, her master praised this book highly, claiming it was very effective. It was also known to be a bestseller in all of 9 provinces. The book that was left on the ground had the title clearly written on it. 100 Methods to Make a Man Take the Initiative, by Love Guru. Pure Heart Saintess also turned into a stream of light and followed Zhongli. After Pure Heart Saintess had left for a while, the Qingcheng Taoist nun saw the book left on the ground. She sighed softly and picked up the book. After all, she was the one who had written it. The 2 small towns were built along a river. Hence, the upstream town was called the Upper River Town and the downstream town, the Lower River Town. The names were simple and straightforward. Unlike Qingcheng, it took Zhongli 500 years to figure out what exactly was green. About Qingcheng, the small town was bustling, everything was energetic and vibrant. The mortals were living a happy life. They didn't feel troubled because they couldn't cultivate to a higher level, nor did they feel inferior because their lives were devoted to serving a group of fairies. The residents of Upper River Town were all busy with their own matters. Vendors hawking on the streets, innkeepers warmly welcoming guests, the fire roaring in the back kitchen while they cooked delectable dishes, families eating together, people preparing for the autumn harvest. Everything seemed perfectly normal and was no different from other small towns inhabited by mortals. However, to Zhongli and Pure Heart Saintess, it all appeared extremely eerie. Pure Heart Saintess even felt a chill running down her spine, causing her to shudder. They could not feel any life force here at all. Whether they were vendors, innkeepers, or cooks, they were all dead people. The entire Upper River Town was a dead city. Not a single living person could be found.